Meeting to order. The time is 9:03 a.m. for the record. The date is the 23rd of September, 2025. Now I'm going to read the territorial agreement. I'll read it. It's okay. Okay. No, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to ask Madam Clerk to read the territorial acknowledgement.
In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge with respect to the history and living culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. We recognize that these lands are the territories of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Miigwech, collectively known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the keepers of this land. Sturgeon Bluffs is located on lands encompassed by treaties 45.5, 67, 72, 82, and 93. We reflect on our role as treaty people and the need to live in respect and peace to show respect to the First Peoples who inhabited these lands and these waters.
Thank you very much. Now I take it that everybody has seen the agenda. Okay. I'm going to ask that the agenda be approved as presented. Do we have a mover? We do?
Yeah, interesting. I do need pecuniary interest. Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't. It's next in order. Okay, thank you. No, that's okay. I have a mover, being Member Wood.
Member Mackey.
Thank you, Member Mackey. And is there any discussion? Record, I know there's no discussion. Vote. I know you're all in favor. If Member McQueen is opening his computer. Approved. Does any member have a declaration of pecuniary interest to declare? No, there are none. Let's take a look at the last minutes, being June the 24th. I would recommend that the minutes be approved. However, that the minutes of Gray Bruce OPP Detachment Board held on June the 24th, 2025 be adopted. Is there a mover? It is. Member Colbert. And is there a seconder? I know. Member Vote. All in favor, including Member.
Wow.
Thank you.
Don't be late again.
I notice there's a lot of your worships around this place.
Bill Murdoch always said if you're a few minutes late, everybody remembers you.
Yeah, so I try for my guy not to do that.
I still get to keep mine, like it or otherwise. In any event, where were we on that one? Did we vote that the minutes be adopted? Yes, we did, and they are approved. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda, we have public participation, and we have a presentation. Any person who wishes, just an announcement, any person who wishes to make a presentation to the board must register with the board administrator at least 10 days in advance of the scheduled meeting to register. I guess it would be fair to say, Ms. Rory, that they would just contact you.
Myself or Joe.
Okay. You can complete this online, and I'll just read it into the record from Gray Bruce OPP Detachment Board /delegations, or call the board administrator, ask for Brittany or Jody at 519-376-2729, extension 601. I see we have a presentation from Crime Stoppers, and who's here from Crime Stoppers?
Peter Reed.
Thank you. Please come forward.
Thank you.
I will point out, I believe there's a time limitation on that.
I've only got 27 pages, it won't take long. We're a very short presentation.
I forgot my 8 timer, don't worry about it.
Thank you for allowing us a few minutes of your time today. Crime Stoppers of Gray Bruce was formed in 1987 and we are a registered charity. It's overseen by a volunteer board of directors and currently employs 1 part-time employee. Our projected operating expenses for this fiscal year are approximately $42,000. Some of our statistics for 2024 include tips received, 703, arrests, 13, charges laid, 81, weapons recovered, 9, rewards approved, 6. And I'll point out that the majority of the tips we receive, the tipsters are not looking for a reward. They're just doing it because it's the right thing to do. Property and cash recovered, $117,365. And drug seized as a result of our tips, $590,142. And that was just last year and just in Grey Bruce. Since 1987, 19,340 tips received, 1,795 arrests, 2,584 charges laid, 129 weapons recovered, 757 rewards approved, property and cash recovered in the amount of $4,906,216. I'm sure there's some pennies in there somewhere too. And total drug seized as a result of Crime Stoppers tips, $50,861,777. So the program does work, and it works quite well. We currently receive some funding from the Owen Sound, Hanover, and Saugeen Shores Police Services Boards, and we would ask you also support our program. During the 2024, 703 tips received by our program, 471 or 67% were for OPP police municipalities. We currently receive no financial support from the OPP at this time. Our ask is for $10,000 for the OPP covered areas. However, we do recognize there are 2 police service boards in Grey Bruce for the OPP. So we would ask for support of $5,000 from this police service board.
Where's the other board?
South Bruce. Covers King Garden, Walkerton.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions, just
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just looking at the stats that Jody sent out yesterday in an email, but you must have another month at it because your numbers were just close to. But anyway, I just found it interesting that recovery seemed to be in November and April.
okay. So honestly, those stats shouldn't have been shared with the board. We generally don't break down the stats that small for organizations because there is a risk that you can identify the amounts to a crime and kind of interfered with the anonymity of our tips. So
Well, I was being.
I was kind of nervous when I
Yeah.
saw that on your screen.
Okay. Well, I was being general. It just seems like spring and fall seem to be the good time that you must have been recovering stuff. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I wasn't specifically looking at the numbers. I was just looking at the trend. And it
It just varies from year to year based on the number of tips and what's going on in the communities and.
I wondered if there was something maybe before winter, maybe before, after winter, maybe. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Studio Chair. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
With regards to Crime Stoppers, is there any connection with Neighborhood Watch?
No,
Completely separate?
completely separate.
Okay.
I don't think there are any neighborhood watches operating. I know there's none up in this area of Grey Bruce that are formally operating, but we would hope our good neighbors would always look after our neighbors' properties as well.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, to our speaker. I appreciate you being here today. Full disclosure, I have been on the board of Crime Stoppers in the past, but
We miss you.
I feel like that's a long time in my past, and I can definitely attest to the value of this organization. You don't hear about it in the news so much for the reason that Peter has already described in terms of maintaining anonymity. So they're sort of, their praises go a little bit unsung. I guess my question, Peter, is if we have member municipalities donating or supporting, already supporting Crime Stoppers, how would you propose the board go about supporting this so that we're not sort of doubling down on those donations?
I am, and please, any municipality I get this wrong on, please correct me. To my knowledge, at this time, the only one who is actively supporting us is North Bruce Peninsula. George and Bluffs did in the past, but I think they've stopped that program that they were doing that with. So, and that's part of the issue with some of the municipalities. George and Bluffs, or sorry, Owen Sound actually has in their bylaws that they do not support any charities through the municipality, like through council. And that's why their police service board supported us. But
Thank you. Later, after discussion, I'd be happy to make a motion that this board support Crime Stoppers in the amount requested.
Noted. Go on, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
Peter, from a financial standpoint, if you had more money, what would you do with it? Like you say, a lot of people don't ask for rewards. You're able to get information, and I'm sure that's encouraged wherever possible. Be a good citizen and try and reduce crime. What would you do to? A lot of it would be spent on marketing to make people more aware. How would you spend that money?
basically, some of it would be on marketing. But a lot of our marketing we do is somewhat organic. If we have volunteers or board members available for events, we will send them out and with some information tables. We're fortunate that our local media supports us with their, we do our Crime of the Week spots on the radios and they're sponsored by other businesses. So that's done at no cost to us. We do brochures, we do pamphlets, things like that. And we'd like to be able to do more. We had looked at doing a human trafficking campaign. This was about 1.5 years ago. And unfortunately, we just couldn't get funding for it from any organization. So we had to put that on the back burner. So there's always programs like that we could bring forward. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it's small, but Meaford did. We have a community burglary and $500 a year for 4 years, which is not great, but it's we had to do something.
We appreciate it.
No, I remember at that point when the presentation was made, there was concern about whether the organization would even be able to continue.
We have made some drastic changes.
Okay.
Our one employee who's now part-time was previously a full-time employee, which has downloaded a lot of work back onto the board, probably where it should have been originally, but since I had come on the board, we had Drew and we used him quite well. So he is literally now just taking tips. All the rest of the administration stuff has been downloaded to the board. We closed our office that we had in Owen Sound. He now works from home. We got rid of our vehicle. So we've really downsized, and that's how we were able to get the budget literally 2/3 of it cut away.
Okay.
So
I'm glad to hear that it's continuing. I'm so sorry that you're.
At this stage, if we can get some support from the OPP police service boards, we are set. We run. We should run about a $3,000 or $4,000 surplus, which isn't much, but it's 10% of our operating, so we're happy with that at this time.
Thank you. Just through you, Chair. With regards to the area that I'm representing, which is Southgate,
Yep.
specifically Dundalk, which is Southgate is one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing municipality in Grey County. And a lot of Crime Stoppers people are there.
Yep.
So just a quick question with regards to how could we, like you mentioned the campaign, how could we get Crime Stoppers awareness out there more with our newcomers, our youth, specifically in Dundalk? As the representative on this board, I've been receiving a lot of questions and things like this. I feel that the Crime Stoppers presence will be very valuable. And just a point A, B to that question would be, are Crime Stoppers available on municipal websites or township websites?
You could definitely link to we have a website, and you could definitely link to us. As for getting more information out there, we do have the highway signage there. It's about the size of a speed sign that says, Crime Stoppers community or whatever, I think we still have some of those available. If not, if any municipalities wanted, I'm sure we could get some made up. That you can, put on the entries to town is where you most normally see them. When you go into Wyerton or you pull into even like Kemble, there's a Crime Stopper sign there on the poles. And for any community events, if you want Crime Stoppers there, let us know. And if possible, we will get someone down there to, be available with information.
Perfect. That was my next question. So thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Has anybody ever looked into insurance companies on this type of thing? Because you're helping to recover, say, an ATV, which saves the insurance company hopefully lots of money that they don't have to buy a new ATV for somebody. It kind of, the way I'm relating this to our fire departments, we didn't realize in the past that, when we went to a fire that we had the right to charge for per man, per engine, per type of thing, and recoup from people paying insurance for that type of thing. Is there any way of linking Crime Stoppers to recovery of products that
We have a couple of insurance companies that do support us in different ways. Germania is a big one, and they're one of our key sponsors on our golf tournament. And they basically organize that whole tournament for us and do a lot of work. A couple of the insurance companies are sponsors of the Crime of the Week programs on the radio. I think Miller's Insurance is one of those. I think Pete's Auto Body is the other one to come off the top of my head. So there are some involvement. At one time when we had our van, they would donate the insurance costs for the van. And that was one of our decisions to get rid of it, was they stopped doing that. So.
Any further? Go ahead.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. And again, thank you for your presentation. I think it's the awareness that people in the general community know what the good things that Crime Stopper is doing. I've heard a lot of issues that are happening in the farming community, the rural areas, doing batteries out of tractors and combines and destroying people's round bales and all that kind of, just to say a few. More and more people have cameras, more and more people have, video surveillance that could be available. And I guess it's the awareness or understanding that they could help. Do you have thoughts around having a booth at the local fairs? And the reason I say this is from plugging into the rural communities or the like, for example, Grey County Beef Farmers Association or whatever, they have a big dance in June and it's growing every year. My point is sometimes they have fundraisers, they have money that could go to something like this.
Yep.
But I think you need to do the PR thing because more and more of issues around the agricultural rural area is happening. And so again, it's sort of that thing is the awareness and how can people help and all those parts. One is what you offer, but also opportunity to get funding as well, because then they see that there's an opportunity that people can report. I think it was just 2 weeks ago, was it Meaford, fellow lost his batteries and out of his combine tractor tools. Neighbors saw something, didn't, whatever, but there maybe people saw more.
Yeah.
Just in that sense of that tip, because, even I had a tractor, somebody stole the battery out of it, and it's happening, and maybe the idea of the economy that, sorry, I don't mean to put my back to everybody, but I just wonder if you thought of plugging into the local fairs, into the agricultural associations and stuff like that, just to get to your initial introduction and what you do, because it is an issue out there.
Yeah.
More and more, it's becoming more and more people stealing fuel, people doing all kinds of stuff. And so, and not just the agriculture or the rural side, all across the whole Grey County and stores, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think personally, if you make those connections, it may be beneficial from the part of financially and also the awareness and also getting those tips to the OPP and stuff like that.
One of the things we've struggled with since COVID is grabbing volunteers and grabbing board members.
Right.
So, that's the other thing. If anybody knows anyone who who might be looking for a board opportunity. And as I mentioned, we are now a working board, so we definitely, be interested in that, or anyone interested in volunteering. We'd love to be able to do more events like that. And again, some of it comes down to cost and some of it comes down to manpower.
So just to follow up.
Yeah.
So Grey County has the ag office in Markdale.
Okay.
And Lori Smith is actually the manager right now. And there's a lot of commodity groups in Grey County that meet there. There's over 300 meetings a year of different, all those.
We won't be there for all of them.
My point is, I think you should reach out to Lori Smith.
Okay.
And plug into there, and maybe you had a session that representatives from all those agricultural community groups could come to a session or something. It just start to build that awareness.
Right.
Because this is beneficial for me this morning, just listening to you, and I know Kathy, you talked about it at our board meeting, but you've been more involved, you're involved. It's the unknown, but more so is it's what's happening up there as well. So it's like you want to create a win-win, and so I don't know if there's other comments from the board, but it's the process of how you can report without people, and I don't think most cases people wouldn't do it just to get money.
No.
They do it because it's the right thing to do,
Right.
but they, they're nervous because if they, nobody wants to be a snitch either, right? Right? I'm just saying it blatantly, right? Nobody likes, but if there's a way to do it, and because on the backside, it costs us all insurance for claims and all that kind of stuff. So it's beneficial to us as well. And, if it stops something that's happening, well then, that's a good thing, right? Because it's happening. So anyway, I don't know if there's any other comments on that side.
I'm going to weigh in with a comment and follow Mayor McQueen's comments. Have you ever reached out to the Ontario Court of Justice to speak at a Justice of the Peace conference?
No.
Can you tell you why? In search warrants, it is not unusual to see that one of the tips came from Crime Stoppers,
Yes.
which supports the additional evidence before issuing a search warrant. On its own, it's not strong
It's not,
enough.
yeah.
It's not strong enough, but believe me, I sat in the search warrant center for a number of years, and Crime Stoppers came up frequently. When you add that to 2 or 3 other pieces of evidence that's in there, it's helpful. So you may want to reach out to the Ontario Court of Justice to speak at the Justice of the Peace Conference primarily, and then the Judges Conference, because in some jurisdictions, it's the judges do the search warrants also. Okay, let's take one more question. We're be a little tight on time. Go ahead, sir.
Sure, just first, thank you for what you do. Many of us sit on many boards and we appreciate that it is time consuming and a lot of work, and appreciate what you do. I'm just curious how many board members you actually have and kind of how many you can have, just what are you
Right.
looking for?
Right now, we have 7, which is really our minimum. Six under our bylaws is our minimum, but we have 7, and we can have up to 16.
Okay,
And we also take on volunteers that don't sit on the board, but do help out at events. And
thank you.
Okay, can we move it along a little bit here? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I'm just on Crime Stoppers website, and if I could direct a question towards the delegate. So I'm just looking at your corporate sponsorships and wondered if it would be beneficial for this board to become a platinum corporate donor and formalize it that way, because it looks like there is, some benefit and some recognition that is provided from subscribing to that program. And then we would also receive, it looks like some of your branding materials to kind of incorporate on our website. And it looks like that's an annual donation.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering if the board would feel it beneficial to, rather than direct that one-time $5,000 donation, to become a platinum corporate donor through their corporate sponsorship program.
What amount is that, $5,000 annually?
Any comments?
any way you want to do it, I'm a happy guy.
I'm with or without a tariff.
Yeah. No, we're tariff-free right now.
Right now. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure what our budget process is for the board right now, and whether or not a $5,000 donation is in the approved budget, or whether it should be put off until next year when we're doing our first real year of budget. My issue is this money comes from each member municipality. And I think the comment was made earlier about each municipality has the option of making a contribution to Crime Stoppers. So I'm not sure we have it in our budget of this year and whether it should be part of next year's budget.
I don't know if it's in that budget, do you recall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mayor Mackey, we have not built the $5,000 into the budget, but there was discussions about allocating that $5,000 from reserves pending presentation from Crime Stoppers and Breakers. So the board has the funding. We can simply pull it from the reserves, which has a balance of about $35,000, at least for today. If you don't want to commit to annual donations, we could include the $5,000 in future budget discussions to be considered on an annual basis.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question to follow up for this. How is the dates? If it's annual, would it start the day it's given, or is it ending like December and then would look at it again next year?
If it followed the cycle of our budgeting, then we would consider it in the fall for the following year.
Oh, I see. So if it was approved now, it would cover from now until next fall.
It would essentially backdate for the remainder of this year, and then you would consider an additional donation, let's say in October,
Okay.
when we consider 2026 budget.
Put another way, it's there, it's in the reserve.
We have the money right now, yes. So you're considering a donation for this budgeting cycle, which is 2025. You can then consider an additional donation for 2026, should you wish to.
So it should be a smaller amount if it was approved now for this budgeting cycle?
No.
No. Oh, okay. I got, okay, so it's the other way. Okay.
Backdate.
The backdate.
Backdate to January 2025.
Yes.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, as a suggestion, if Member Colburn would like to bring forth her motion, I see no reason why we couldn't deal with this motion.
We're gonna run out of time.
Well, if we do it right now and then
Yeah.
we make a decision right now, it's public meeting, so why not?
Sure. I think that's a good idea.
So I can let my original motion stand as presented, or I'm not sure how folks are feeling about offering up $5,000 now and then turning around and doing another 5,000. I'm not sure that's gonna, I shouldn't speak for other people. I know, I would propose that for now, we do the 5,000 donation and we consider the platinum annual ongoing sponsorship during the next budget cycle.
Go ahead.
I would second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Right over the 10 minutes.
That wasn't my fault, that was yours.
Can we get a refund? Go ahead.
Brittany, do you need direction from the board to pull from reserves? Or did you just get it?
Pardon?
I thought there was something else to be.
Peter, can I get one too?
Let's see.
Everybody needs an AGM. I just make a comment?
Yeah, please.
The reason I was okay with voting on that, typically I won't vote on an issue right when it's in front of us, and it's not fair to the rest of the board members, but we had this discussion at this table, I believe, a few months ago. I know I've been gone and all over the place, so that's the reason I'm okay with taking the 5,000 from reserves. We will have the discussion at budget on whether we are going to be a platinum member, or we don't even know the total we're gonna come up with in the budget. Just to clarify why I was okay with voting on that right there.
Okay, yes.
Sorry, I don't mean to prolong any discussions, but through you to our staff, the comments that Peter made regarding posting the data that maybe wasn't intended to be shared, is it out there now in the public domain? Is there anything we can do to correct that situation?
Review. So the information that was circulated was only forwarded to us by the Detachment Commander Barfoot. So the information that was shared with the board only. It hasn't been posted anywhere publicly.
And just for the board, we had permission from the staff of Crime Stoppers to share that with the board. We did get permission through an email.
I just wanted to share also a motion to receive the delegation. We have the, I think it's important for the minutes to reflect that we received the delegation from Crime Stoppers. Problem with that?
I understand where everybody's coming from, but should we have received that information enclosed? Because if it's not listed as closed, the public has the right to see that information. So if the OPP had give that to this board, I think we should be adding that it was enclosed, and we didn't receive it enclosed from this.
There was no direction from Crime Stoppers about that from their staff. They decided we were free to share it. So.
Oh, so then I know I'm not going to share it and nobody else is here, but it is a public document. That's just to be aware that it does come out, it's public. Okay.
Can we move on?
Well, I moved the motion
Sorry,
to
go ahead.
receive the delegation.
I'm sorry.
I moved the motion to receive the delegation.
Any second reason? All in favor? Thank you. We're up to back in public participation. Sorry, moving it along. Delegations, we've all seen the agenda. Any person who wishes to appear before the board regarding an item on the agenda must register with the board administrator. To register, as I said earlier, you complete the online delegation form. I've read it into the record. Bruce OPP Detachment Board /delegations, or call the board administrator. He's sitting right here to my left, one over, and it's 519-376-2729, extension 601. That's for Whitney or for Jody. Or register in council chambers prior to the meeting start time. There are no other delegations. The agenda, are there any items that anyone would like to have pulled from the agenda? Looking around, I don't see any.
Apologies for clarity, we're on the consent agenda.
Okay, the consent agenda be received for information as circulated. You wish that to be a motion, Madam Administrator? Do I have a mover? Member Wood, do I have a seconder? Member Coburn, all in favor? Approved. Now we have correspondence, etc. We're going to skip over, we don't have to check through that, do we?
Just did.
Yep.
So now you're on item 8, report.
Thank you very much. We have with us the detachment commander. In fact, we've got two in a sense. We've also got Sergeant, I believe it's Anderson, correct? Who's up to bat?
Well, I wasn't
Go ahead.
planning on presenting the reports. These were, this is Q2, so it was shared with you before the July board meeting. And the other one is our 2024 Detachment Board Annual Report. So they were just shared with the board. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I wasn't planning on going through them all since they aren't.
Well, everybody, I believe, has had the opportunity to read them. The only comment I'm going to make, and it's a positive comment, as I was reading through it, I had also received copies of from other boards that were put out publicly, and a lot of them had the chair of the board put out their comments initially, and I'm reading through it, wondering what's going on, and then when I got down to it, I noticed you noted that it was not in there, but will be in the future. Clearly, for the record, I take it, it was not noted because we are a new board and we're still trying to have our inauguration.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is the 2024 annual report. So our board was not in place by the time we had to publish this, get the data ready. So we just put that comment in there that next year we would have a
I
comment.
took it that way. I understand that. And I just wanted you to put it on the record. That's what happened in case somebody asks a question. Okay. Questions for, are you adding anything else? I'm sorry.
Is this a good time to ask questions of the commander, not specific to that report, or will there be a better time?
Well, I think it's a good time, is it not?
Okay, well, we've heard in the news just recently.
Just said, Carla?
Sorry, I have a muffin in my mouth. Just through you, Mr. Chair, there is an inquiry section of the agenda for questions to be directed to the detachment commander.
Okay, we'll throw them at you shortly. Any further, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I had one question, Marla, thank you. Under youth crime, on page 105, there was, 61 was listed. It was interesting because I went to the table because it was under null was that large number. And when I went to look at what that actually meant, it said it was dispositions that were really not, there weren't charges applied, but there were not specific dispositions. And so I'm wondering what that gets, what are the charges? Because there are kind of all the disposition types that were listed. And yet this seems to be a catch-all category. So on page 111, it says that no represents blanks or where officers did not indicate the disposition type, however, charges were applied. So what's your, sorry, that's on this.
The annual report or the quarter report?
Annual.
Okay. I don't have the page numbers as you.
That's, yeah, my
Sorry.
apologies.
Just before you answer, I apologize. I should have said at the beginning, there's a recommendation to receive the report. And we should have started with, is there a motion that the 2024 Detachment Board Annual Report be received for information? I take it out of order? Okay, okay. Mover? Member Kirkland, seconded. Member Mackey. All in favor?
Oh, I have a question.
I'm sorry. Any questions?
Yeah, one question first.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
It was just to be received for information.
And essentially, the youth involvement, not always is their charge. So some of the times there's no disposition because there's no charge. It's like a trouble with youth or a call where we're just dealing with youth, but there's no actual charge, so there's no disposition. That makes
Okay.
sense?
Sort of. I thought it literally said charges were applied, but they said type however charges were applied, so I just thought that was kind of interesting.
And that's like one.
Anderson wants to weigh in on that. Go ahead.
So in lieu of a conviction, they're diverted to a community program, be it a supportive one or a repercussions type one. There's different programs in the community for that.
Perfect, okay, that makes sense.
And those are reflected in the other report in the youth section. So if you were to put those kind of side by side, it would make sense, like the quarterly ones that we do.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Ms. Becky Barfoot. I'm just looking on table 4.2, and last year there was a frontline hours, 176,266, which is a nice increase from 2022. Is that actual patrol hours, or
Yep, sorry.
is that patrol hours, or is that hours that officers were paid for?
That's a good question on that, on the board report. Frontline hours.
I guess what I was trying to establish is that,
Is that the number of hours worked or the number of patrol hours?
yeah,
Field personnel hours.
I think the differentiation there from in like speaking in policing terms, it's like a dark code where you're doing an activity that is forward facing the community, responding, investigating, that kind of stuff versus the kind of in-house paperwork side of things. So that would be the difference there, is that the officer's 12-hour day may have been 50-50 in-house, out-of-house, and now it's just a little bit more, we've freed up more time for them to be in the community, so there's less of that kind of paperwork time, if that makes sense. Just through the supportive programs that we have, we've probably talked about them before, but we do have like civilian type programs to reduce the amount of paperwork the officers are doing, which allows them to be in the communities more.
If you look at the little badge above the chart, the chart there, so this is our service delivery model target, and that's what they're trying to get each officer to make their day fit this badge. So 40% of the day would be calls for service, 34% would be your administrative, you know, you're doing your briefs and whatnot, 21% is proactive, and then 5% community engagement. So that's what the OPP's target is. What we're looking at with the new service delivery model is getting it to fit that percentage.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. Thank you for the information. And I wonder if there needs to be an amendment to the motion that this information is forwarded to our local municipalities. You know, nothing more than when the taxes go in from a representative council and say, what do we get for our taxes? This report says a lot with regards to our policing costs, what's happening. And it's good for us as members of council to say, you know, this is where that money is going. But if we don't have that data, it's sort of hard. So do we need an amendment for that to have this? Like, this is all public information, right? So this could, we used to get this at our council meetings and stuff, but it's for information. So you need an amendment to that this also be forwarded to our local municipality? Or is that a comment?
And Madam Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. We did circulate this via email to the board members and asked that they bring it forward to their respective councils.
Okay. It would really be good if it was from an email from staff, then we wouldn't have to be thinking about doing it, but anyway.
We could give that direction.
Well, that's what I was thinking, that this
Like
is here,
to the
as a
clerk.
board, that we are part of all those councils, that then it just gets forwarded automatically, and then it pops up on our agenda, and if anybody has any questions, we can address it. If we don't have the information, we follow up, right? So I'll move that amendment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Seconded. Monica? Yes. All in favor? Yes, go ahead.
And I think what was just suggested as an amendment is important, but it's also another report that goes in our agenda along with 100 others. I wonder sometimes if there's a better way to deliver the information to our municipalities. I know that you, Commander, you go out and speak to different municipalities, but I think it's just really important to have that interface between this board and our municipalities that maybe goes a little bit beyond just charts and data. We all read it, but I wonder how many of our respective council members do read it. So any way that we can help highlight the work that you do would be terrific. And that leads to another question. Someone at this table said, like, what are we doing here at one point? And that really resonated with me because I don't know for sure if our policing needs in our communities are being met. You probably do, your staff probably does. But if we don't do more engagement with our residents to say, you know, how are you feeling about police services? Is there anything we can do better? Is there anything we're missing? How, as a board, do we really know that? And so maybe that's a discussion for another day, but it is something that was recommended again by the Association of Police Service Boards, that we do more engagement as a board to determine if we're really meeting the policing needs of our local communities.
I think I can take that opportunity to weigh in just with a comment, and if you don't mind, Carly, just what you were talking about earlier, before the detachment commander continues. I've had a number of discussions and information going back and forth with our association, with Janine Berglund. And questions are coming to me. What should we be doing with the board? What should the board be doing? A lot of suggestions were thrown out. I've been passing them along to her. She's being invited, and Carly will speak to this perhaps. She's being invited to speak to us at the next conference, or sorry, at the next board meeting. And there's going to be a memo going out, I believe, by Jody shortly to all of the members indicating suggestions to be made, such as the one that Member Coburn just raised. And we're going to compile all of these and get them into Janine's hands and let her speak to you. This came up when I sat through one of the luncheon meetings, and the two other members looking at it. And Carol, you were there also, I think. And they were asking us questions, and we were shaking our heads. We're a new board, and she began to realize, well, there's not enough information coming out yet. So there's going to be an educational process going on that you're going to be asked to feed back through Jody and Carly. I'll get a copy myself. I'm feeding all my questions over to, and suggestions over to Janine, and she's going to be addressing them in some fashion. Okay.
Well, I have some correspondence coming up later on the agenda. And so when we were going through the transition from the larger police services board, we created terms of reference to have our community safety committee, which is made up of myself as a representative on the police services board, but also other councillors and people from the public. And that was sort of our back and forth to residents or concerns in our municipality that funnel up through. And then the part of the terms of reference is if there's issues like today, later on, then I bring that up to this board. So that's how we're sort of developing a little bit of Grey Highlands, still keeping in touch, because that was at that time with council and we were changing, they still wanted somehow to have some connection to issues that were going on in our municipality. So maybe that's something that could be considered other municipalities, but so there's still that local that's still being funneled up as me being the representative.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And further to those comments, Member McQueen, we have, and I'm looking to staff, but as Georgian Bluffs is the administrator for the staff support for this board, I know that we have the software and the capabilities of developing, for example, surveys that can go out to all of our residents throughout this board to elicit that kind of information, that kind of feedback that might help guide that process. I appreciate the work that a subcommittee does. I think that is, I don't know if you're suggesting that we continue on with that model, but certainly we have ways to reach out to the communities and the residents and ask, what do you think our policing needs are? We would want to break it down probably by municipality, but as I say, perhaps Carly or Britt would comment, but we certainly have the capability to do that.
So just to speak to your survey, the OPP already does a community satisfaction survey, for all of you that are not aware of it. I'm not sure how often, do you know how often it's done?
Or I can double check.
Okay, yeah, we can double check on how often it's done. It is put out, but it is a survey that is out to the public. And it is feedback on satisfaction with the OPP in your area. So we do already have a survey in place, not to say you guys can't do your own, but just so you know, there is one already in place that is out for our citizens. The other thing is, you're speaking about what the board does, the role. I think you're going to be happy to hear the presentation that's coming from our Municipal Policing Bureau. They're here to help you understand what the role is of the board member here versus the Police Service Board for municipal service. So hopefully by the time you hear their presentation, some of your questions will be answered and you'll have these two experts here to ask all the questions that you'd like. So hopefully that's helpful for you all. They're going to speak shortly, I believe. And then another suggestion, you're speaking of getting the information out to the public. Staff Sergeant Anderson spent a lot of time in Wellington County, and something that they did was they submitted an annual report out with the local newspaper. So they have a Wellington countywide newspaper.
It was it's a bit different in that Wellington County has a county contract rather than when they had contracts. So it was at the county level as opposed to the township level. But every spring there would be an insert that went into the Wellington Advertiser, which was a paper that went out to all the households in the community. And it was it opened up and had it was in color. There was photographs, there was a big discussion in the spring of what's gonna make the front page of it, who's gonna be on the front page, but it would be an officer doing radar or on the snowmobiles, or at the time they had a mounted unit. And inside was, pictures of new officers that just joined the detachment. There were statistics in the top 10 calls for service and stats in that regard. They had new roundabouts that were established in Wellington County, so there was a tutorial on how to properly go through a roundabout for safety. It was just full of information, and it really was a report card to the community that was colorful, that included photographs. It wasn't just all statistics. That was a report card to the community on what the OPP did for them in the previous year. It was very well received. There is a cost associated to that, of course. And it also, we had unit supervisors. So for instance, our crime unit, they would contribute. Usually there's a message from the detachment commander, there's a message from the board chair, and then a message from the commissioner of the OPP. So you have sort of all levels. And because they had a paper that went to all of the households, it was much easier. I'm not sure that we have one here. I know we have one in Grey County, but not too sure about Bruce. But it was very positive feedback on it. And I'm not sure the cost involved. I think when it first started, it was somewhere around $3,000 for the insert. It was usually about maybe 10 pages or 20 pages along that lines. I think the cost obviously got more over the years, but it's just a suggestion about how to reach somebody that's not in a report that you have to go through, but more of a almost like entertainment, with the photographs and everything.
Who would we talk, thank you, Mr. Chair, who would we talk to at the OPP to talk about having something like that?
Well, it didn't come from the OPP, it came from the board.
Okay.
So the board paid for the insert because it's
Right.
also a reflection on their management of not management, but their involvement in the policing in the community. And then they they contracted with the Wellington Advertiser, and they assigned a employee to work with the OPP to give them the data and put it together in a professional manner.
Right, so there's still a go-between, so we need to synthesize the information. I'm just thinking to Meaford, we do have a newspaper, we do have a newsletter, so it would be something that would be perceived as value, but obviously I'm just looking for the connection that we need, what's conduit.
Because there's different newspapers in different areas, I'm not sure how that would all work, like whether you would contract somebody separately to put together the information and the insert, and then pay the newspaper to distribute it.
Which comes back to the conversation we've had in the past about this being a body of large coverage versus honing in on an actual municipality, because each municipality wants to know their own statistics. So again, synthesizing that information would require us reaching out to you, get the information, and determining whether we're gonna budget to put it forth.
I'm not suggesting that it would be done in individual townships, but rather of an overall policing report card. It's because, if you're in Meaford and you think you have a problem with break and enters, you should care what the next municipality is going through with break and enters, because the criminals don't really, follow borders. I think it's like an overall approach to it as opposed to specific to that. Those numbers can be retrieved specific to your community, but I think in my mind it would be like an overall report card for the 2 counties that we police.
Can't think of any real periodical piece that would go to every municipality in the counties that would get that kind of coverage.
If I may interject,
I think it would be appropriate for the board to give the Georgian Blessed administration team some direction to connect with each of the individual municipalities. For the most part, they all have communications, and they best know how to interact with the individuals in your local communities, be it a newspaper, be it your website, whatever that may look like. So we can take this feedback back and work with our communications teams and your respective communications teams to generate some form of a plan and present it to the board. You can consider the report card, a survey, or a combination of both things.
I can see if I can get a sample from previous years, that I think that would be helpful to have a visual.
Love you, Kathy.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I want to go back to something you said, Commander Barfoot, about the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards. Because I may be misunderstanding, but my understanding is that it's not just for municipal police boards, but for all police boards in Ontario. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I was just distinguishing between Ontario, provincial police, so we have detachment boards or municipal police service boards. There's two different types of boards under the Ontario Association.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry if I
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. And I guess I wasn't really, you talk about a customer service survey, a customer satisfaction survey. It's not exactly what I was looking for, because I think if you ask people, are you satisfied or not, people seem to be inclined to just be dissatisfied for whatever reason. I was looking for more location-specific information. You know, maybe the Sunset Strip has issues with a break and enter, or you know, specific spots in Meaford or Pleasurton, and we're getting that data. Currently, we can get that data through the policing data system, but I'm not so sure if we're getting it directly from the people who are receiving the services, like businesses, for example. I'd also be curious as to what the uptake is for the customer satisfaction survey, because I don't know that I've ever seen it, and I'm on council and I'm on this board. So I just wonder what the reach is, and if you look at population, are we getting a third? Are we hitting a third of respondents? What's the uptake like?
I think we can get that information. Yeah, we can get that information for you.
I like Brittany's idea of the board. I think they've probably heard enough from what the board's looking for on specifics. Give you a chance to put a package together, then we can look at the next board meeting, see if it's what we're thinking, and try to refine it and go from there. So it'd be a start. But you will need direction from this board to do that.
I would appreciate it, just so there's clarity.
So I would move that direction, and I think you've got enough information from listening to board members on what the board's looking for.
Yes, if I may be procedurally thinking for 1 minute. We should probably deal with the motion that's on the floor, and then if you could move that motion, that would be appreciated.
Do you want to read the motion then?
The motion has been amended and simply needs a vote to finalize receiving the report for information and the direction to refer the report to
And could you
the
read that?
respective councils.
Read that into the record?
How did you have it written down?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So we have a motion to receive the 2024 Detachment Annual Report for information, which was subsequently amended to include direction to staff to forward the report to membership councils for information. So the motion has been adopted. The amendment to the motion has been adopted. We just need to formalize adoption of that motion. And then I believe there's additional direction beyond that needs to be dealt with.
Just a question of, is there a mover and a second?
Yes, so you just need to call the vote to approve that the 2024 Detachment Annual Board Report be received for information, and that staff be directed to forward the report to membership councils for
Thank you
information.
very much. Is there a mover?
You just need to
She
call-
has a mover and a seconder, you just need to call.
Call vote.
All in favor? You're in the room.
Just a quick question with regards to report card. That'd be really good that the general public sees it like that. I know there's new to get one paper. I mean, papers are almost, we have one paper. Flushington Advance or Grand Islands Advance, but they're old, old Sound Times, I don't know how. But, is there a possibility, and we see it at election time or different, is a one-page flyer that goes out, I'm not sure that costs 20 cents, which nowadays they have those barcodes or links. So your 10 pages could be accessed through your computer, but that initial one page or double-sided gets out there just as an idea, however, right? It's just to initially get the information, and if they want more, they can open up the barcode or they can hit a link and then they can get the 10 pages or whatever it is. Because I think it is something that, going back to you, Kathy, that, we hear from our public about policing, and you're probably right what you just said there. But, I think it's good to share what OPP is doing. And I mean, us as a board, we're developing ourselves as a new board and how things move forward as well. So, we're going to take some time, but I think as best we can to share things to the public, I think that's a good thing. Thank you.
We're talking about communications and making sure that the people who pay for policing, a substantial portion of their budget is well spent, and the idea of town halls around. We talk about us as board members getting involved. We could be out there attending these town halls along with the commander and other representatives where we present this information to those who are interested. They can be public, so it could come up. Somebody could join the meeting online, and they would bring forth ideas, questions, some of which would be relevant, some of which perhaps aren't realistic. But to me, I think that's one thing we could do. And that's where I felt all along that our job is to be that conduit between the public and the police. And so anytime we can go out and represent ourselves very officially as board members, as opposed to just somebody that shows up, adds value to what we're doing and makes our contribution much more substantial. So for feedback, maybe with your work that you do to bring back, that might be a consideration that the report comes out and that's a good time. Okay, we're going to go out and do the road show.
That's a good idea.
Go ahead.
So just through you, Chair, just to follow, I appreciate you saying that, the member saying this, and also the other comments, because that's something that I've been looking to do in Southgate, specifically also Dundalk, and just having a streamlined way that folds into the vision and mandate of this board, and also speaks to the question about why we're here. I find that helps to amplify the voice that we're having here right now. Just to add to member Jim, what happened when we came into this detachment format, I really love it. It's great, but kind of getting away from our own reports. I would really appreciate to have both. I don't know if that's more work or if we can request it. For some municipalities that might be kind of status quo a bit, but in Southgate, it's so changing. Like it's very rhythmic right now. I don't know if that's a good word. And for different changes that are happening, and I don't know if desegregated is the right word, but I know our community safety plan is at the Grey County level, and I really appreciate that too. I just find that it's a little bit unique in our area to get more specific information. So without causing more rework or extra work, or is it possible that some of us can request both?
If I may, through you, Mr. Chair, are you requesting more specific data for Southgate through the OPP's report? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and I don't want to put too much work on.
So the idea with the detachment board was to get away with each municipality. It's to do with the Grey Goose Detachment Policing Area, because we're being one board overseeing the area together. If you have a specific need for information for, you think there's an issue with break-in enters or something, then you can reach out to us directly to get specific information for something like that. But as far as reporting overall, the direction from the OPP with the new board style is to give data for the whole area. Because you might think your needs are unique, but you're going to find they are actually quite similar to your neighbor.
Thank you, Chair. Just to lend support for the members' comments, I think the more that we consider this as a regional or by-county thing, the more we lose touch with specific needs, and I have concerns about that, but I also have a lot to learn yet about the board in the area. Going back to our vice chair's remarks about traveling roadshow, George and Bluffs just recently had, I would call it a town hall. We call it Connect George and Bluffs. Is that GB Connect? Yeah, I still don't have it quite right. Connect and collaborate. That's the kind of event where a couple of our board members from here could have been there with the little booth. The people are already coming, the advertisement's already been done, and I'm sure it happens in other municipalities as well. And I wouldn't have thought of that until I heard the vice chair's remarks. So something to think about going forward.
Just to speak on our experience so far of the OPP and this board, South Cruise Peninsula, we have Sable Beach. So we had a direct link, it would be back in May or June, I can't remember, Marla, you had turned us over to, I got our staff, yes, it was you, sorry I forget your name. But that was a direct link for our staff on policing and the location of what was going to happen in Sable Beach. So it was more distinct to the area, and it was a direct link and talking back and forth on what was going to happen. So that was, you know, did it need to be at the board level of what was going to, in that specific case? Or I think we still have the opportunity for direct links to find out what's going to happen in Dundalk, or what I think the opportunity is there, I believe, to be more direct with you for Dundalk, instead of just the whole board. We're trying to be the umbrella of the whole thing, but just to let you know our experience, that I was able to link our staff with the OPP, and we were specific to the Sable Beach area, which helped us hugely in that, to know what was going on.
Perfect. I love you too.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, just add as a community member, so I believe that would be the purpose of having the appointed community members on the board, was as a representative of community members that are not on councils and such. So, but there's two sides to that coin. Number one, I don't have a bunch of people that are coming to, in some cases, complain or talk about these pieces, right? Outside of, it's not been really advertised, oh, Michelle is now this person, right? So I agree, I would have loved to go to, as the George and Bluffs representative, right, to that event. To be honest, I was unaware that it was happening. So just as a thought as well, I believe there is 4 of us that are to be on that committee. So I know a lot of this is focused on all of you that are in council positions and have that connection, right, with probably hundreds, thousands of people that I would personally not have.
Purposes of having John Gunn.
Right.
You'll want to stay that way.
Yeah. They got our email.
I'm always looking for a challenge. Looking for a challenge. Looking for a
We can
challenge.
defer to you.
No,
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to add, based on my experience, typically in your previous police services board, issues never came to members of the board. Issues always came to members of the elected municipal
That's correct.
council. They were the one, people knew they could reach out to members of council, so in the past, that's where it came from, that information came from.
That's like.
I'm not sure if we want to recreate something different here, but members of the public are still going to reach out to their elected officials and expect that that elected official bring those issues to the board.
That's where it starts. Always starts there. Sure. Go ahead.
Just to add to that, though, we have community members who are playing a particular role, and whatever we can do to facilitate, open line communication to any of the board members, I think we ought to be doing that.
We all have different backgrounds.
And some folks may feel more comfortable reaching out to a fellow community member than an elected official too.
Just quickly, so obviously the makeup are the terms of reference of being a representative on this board. So we have municipal reps, community reps, provincial appointees. We must have some terms of reference of your role written down somewhere, right? So how?
That's our board that should have that.
That's right. But what I mean is, in the sense of what Mikey was saying is, obviously from a board's perspective, you have a role as a community and as a provincial.
And that question came up. What is it? What are the duties of the board? This is part of the discussion I had with Janine. what are the duties of the board?
And the members on it.
Exactly. So this is on the checklist, is the nice way of putting it. I've already raised it and she's raised it with me. You can say something.
I can appreciate the composition of the board that we've discussed, municipal representation and members of council and so on, but at the same time, my thoughts as a provincial appointee is I'm here because I believe that what we want to do is work with the police to make sure that we reduce crime. Our ultimate goal would be the elimination of crime completely, which will never happen, but nevertheless, it's a good lofty goal to have. So in other words, criminals don't have any political boundaries. Well, I only rob houses in Georgian Bluff. I'm never going to go to Great Highlands. So I appreciate there's going to be stuff come out like, well, you need to do something about the speeding on my street. Okay, that kind of very specific stuff. But I'm more interested in, and I not to undermine that in any way or diminish the importance of that. I'm more interested in the things where people get killed, where people get injured, where things happen in our community. And I don't think the OPP can say, well, okay, we're just going to look at that as in this municipality. Those boundaries don't exist when it comes to crime. And there again, when we tie in with Crime Stoppers, it's not like, well, we only take calls from this area. If there's a lead they get that's outside the area that apprehends a criminal that works in Wellington County, but also comes into Grey or Bruce counties, well, that's what we need to do. Crime, that's the nature of crime. And so our role as police board members, surely, is to give the assistance necessary. And while we can be concerned with specific issues in each municipality, more importantly, it's overall work of your detachment, Marla, to reduce crime in the whole area. And that's my take. And as I say, I'm not here. I live in Georgian Bluffs, but I'm just as concerned with the crime that exists elsewhere because it does spread out. These people need to be apprehended. We need to reduce this kind of problem. And surely that should be our vision as opposed to, well, I'm only here to worry about the crime in my neighborhood or my community.
Anything else? Anything further in the discussion?
If I could just circle back to Member Kirkland's direction to staff on needed communications and proposing a plan to the board. He moved it, but I don't believe there was a second.
And we do have a seconder, Member Reed. The vote, all in favor? Opposed, if any? None. Passed. We move on. Now, I think the next one up is the Safety and Policing Act report. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Recommendation is that the second quarter, April to June 2025, Great Bruce OPP Detachment report be received for information. Member Kirkland, second. Member Cohen. We are going to ask the detachment to commander to address it. Or is that being addressed?
That's already been done.
Done.
That's done. Okay. And so therefore, there's no further discussion. We've thrown that all out. All in favor? Opposed, if any? None. Passed. New business. We have on here Janet Fever, the OPP, Municipal Policing Bureau.
Mr. Chair, why don't we take a 10-minute break or a 5-minute
I
break?
think that's a great idea. I always forget that one. Never once remember.
Halfway through the agenda.
Yeah.
Georgian Bluff has a lot of activities to do. It's really nature driven, and it's like the community is very nice, very friendly. And a lot of the locals come here every single day and they think of it as their therapy.
We're the Farouk family. We started farm on the lake, and the community, everybody around it, the support structure, the township has actually made us to who we are today. And now that we have this set up, this whole operation is well received by the community. People drive down from far, far away to do camping, glamping with us.
A lot of people come from far away to see the goats, and they're really amazed. Sometimes we feed the babies in front of them.
When we think about Georgian Bluffs, it's really the Reiki forest bathing that comes to my mind. I'm a Reiki master teacher, and we were looking to bring our people for a retreat, and this property just popped up, and we realized that behind it's a beautiful forest. Every time we are driving up, I feel so relaxed. The air is amazing.
If you're an outdoor enthusiast, there's never-ending things to do. There's the hiking all over through the escarpment. There's the bay, the water, if you're into water sports or sailing. And of course, pickleball is growing fast and it's all over the place right now. So there's lots to do.
What we enjoy the most about Georgian Bluff is having access to the beautiful nature around us, the cultural impact from the First Nations to the local artists.
The trails and so many great things to do, and lots of business opportunity here, and tourism as well to support our business.
First off, what I love about the area is the scenery. It's absolutely beautiful. Like, it's right in the name of the municipality, the Bluffs. Another thing too that I noticed from living through here is all the small communities throughout Georgian Bluffs. They're very unique, and they might be very small, but we're very big with heart. Everybody looks out for each other, takes care of each other, and just the way locals support locals. So the ability to have a local business and prosper is very apparent here in Georgian Bluffs.
People are more genuine here. People are more sincere. They're kind. They know the word please and thank you. It's the way life used to be. It's more simpler. You feel like you're part of something.
The township of Georgian Bluffs as a municipality is proud to serve its residents, whether it be looking after infrastructure, looking after our roads, grading our gravel roads, looking after our parks, our trails, our community centres, our ice arena, or providing the services that residents rely on every single day when they come to our township offices. I'm proud to lead a team which is here serving the residents of Georgian Bluffs every single day.
What we'd like to see Georgian Bluffs going forward is really, more people coming to experience this beautiful energy, this relaxed energy, because over here in Georgian Bluffs, I can hear the wind, I can hear the trees talking. It's just amazingly relaxing.
Welcoming more people, yet with the same foundation and principles of community, of respect, and of morals.
It would be great for Georgian Bluffs to continue to support, nature and the beauty that we have here, and to keep our area clean and beautiful.
I hope to see more local businesses, more sustainable living, and more families just moving up here and living and prospering off their land and their property.
For me and my family, Georgian Bluffs means being close to nature, having the escarpment to hike and the water of Georgian Bay at our doorstep is something that draws us to being part of this community. The family-friendly neighbourhoods, the fact I can connect with my neighbours and see them on the street and say hello, and I know the people I'm seeing each day, is something which for me is something I treasure and my family treasures about being in Georgian Bluffs.
We are Dirk and Alma DeVries, and we are coming to you from Dual Acres. This is a beautiful property in Georgian Bluffs that we own, and we run horse-drawn sleigh and carriage rides from.
I'm always
That's nothing to do with you. All right. Okay. We're up to 8.1.2 on the agenda, Great Bruce OPP Community Safety and Policing Act Report, Q2, April to June 2025. Recommendation is to receive the report that the second quarter, April to June 2025, Great Bruce OPP Detachment report be received for information. Is there a mover? Monica, thank you. So we have a mover, and the seconder is Vice Chair. Thank you. We're deferring back to the detachment commander or. Go ahead.
Morning, everyone.
Or did we deal with that?
That report was.
That was all part of the other one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That one's been dealt with. They blended. Okay, now we have Janet Weaver from the OPP Municipal Policing Bureau to tell us what the difference is between an OPP versus Municipal Police Service Board. Janet, all yours.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for being here, for allowing me to join you today. And thank you very much for the invitation, Inspector. Happy to come down and talk to you about how the OPP delivers service and how we operate within the province. And then we'll talk about the CSPA, the introduction of detachment boards, and we'll take questions afterwards. So as mentioned, my name is Janet Fever. I'm a municipal policing coordinator with the Municipal Policing Unit. I'm based out of Aurelia headquarters. That's where we came from. And I have a colleague with me today. I'll ask her to introduce herself.
Good morning, and yes, thank you for allowing us to be here today. I am a sergeant with the Ontario Provincial Police, and I am now with the Municipal Policing Bureau as a coordinator as well.
So we've prepared a short presentation for you today, and we'll get right into it if we may. So I'm not here to talk about the OPP's strategic plan. Don't worry. We're not going. It's a great plan, and it's a wonderful document that summarizes how we work and deliver services to you. But I do want to draw your attention to our vision, which is safe communities and a secure Ontario. And the reason I want to draw your attention to that is because it immediately encapsulates how the OPP delivers service. It reflects our dual mandate to conduct local municipal policing, as well as conduct provincial responsibilities to keep Ontario safe. So right in the vision, they've captured the dual mandate, which is unique to the OPP. It was interesting being here to listen to your discussion today, because I heard about how people who commit crime, they're not looking at the borders. It's borderless, which makes sense. And that's a great segue into how the OPP delivers service. We use the integrated service delivery model, which is essentially loosely borderless policing. It allows us to do things, to conduct programs like closest to the call, where the officer that's closest to a call based on priority is dispatched to that call, regardless of where they are, what detachment they're from. They could be traveling through the detachment area to conduct training, but they're in a car and they're in uniform, which means they're available and they could be deployed to a call. So depending on priority, that summarizes integrated service delivery model. It allows officers to conduct both municipal and provincial duties in different municipalities throughout their shift, which leads to a lot of efficiencies. As mentioned, borderless policing, it enhances flexibility, and then allows us to partner with other agencies, which is wonderful. And it creates a complication because we need to sort out those calls because, as you know, municipalities are responsible to cover the cost of policing. So we use a program called DAR. I think I heard it earlier today. DAR means Daily Activity Reporting. It's a program that the OPP uses to track time by activity by officer. So it's very, very granular. And it includes the calls that officers go to and the length of time they spend on those calls, allows us to conduct analytics, allows us to tease out through the data and the anomalies and allocate calls to municipalities as appropriate. So it allows us to sort the data. So DAR is key to how we are able to allocate costs. And speaking of costs, in 2025, the OPP estimates that we will need to recover $497 million provincially from municipalities to cover the municipal policing costs. What does that include? That includes frontline officers, civilian support staff, and supervisory staff. It also includes support and other direct operating expenses, or ODOE, things like IT, vehicles, uniforms, weapons, training. Those items are covered under ODOE. And so the OPP is obliged to collect these funds from municipalities, which are then submitted to Treasury Board.
Can I ask you whether or not we're going to get these slides?
I think you got a yes.
Thanks, Joe.
Sorry, I wasn't loud enough. Yes, I would be more than happy to forward them to board members.
Excellent. And I did ask for the next slide. No, it's going back to the previous one, that $497 million. How do we sort that out? We use that program called DAR. We use some other analytics as well, but DAR is key to that. So under provincial responsibilities, the OPP expects to spend over $1 billion on provincial responsibilities. These funds are allocated to things like highway, waterways, and trails, highway traffic safety, aircraft enforcement, specialty teams like K-9, aviation, emergency response team, child sexual exploitation, organized crime, investigations and support bureau. So these are provincial responsibilities, and the funds are not recovered from municipalities. A municipality gets what they need to respond, what the OPP needs to respond to a call. If that's one officer, great. If that's 20 officers, we're coming. If you need aviation support, it's on its way. Those funds are not recovered from municipalities. We do have a more detailed billing presentation, but I thought, you know what, today let's focus on the CSPA and the roles of the board. If there's ever an inclination or a curiosity to dig deeper into the OPP billing model, we're happy to return and do that sometime. But we're not going right into the specifics of every municipality's bill today. So I talked about costs.
Just on that, but originally the billing, through you, Mr. Chair, was based on so much per household, so not, there was a quick formula, right?
Thank you. Yes, we're getting there.
Okay.
Yes. You're absolutely right. Yes. Yep, yes, yep. And so efficiencies, it's actually on the next slide. What does the OPP do to keep costs down? Because we hear you. We hear from boards and municipalities, it's expensive. We know that. And we are continually working to find efficiencies to keep our frontline officers on the front line. And so these are some of the programs that the OPP has invested in and have resulted in over 333 hours reallocated to frontline service in 2024. So one would be redirection of calls to the frontline support unit. So we have officers who are available to take phone calls and talk to folks as required, as appropriate for that particular call, and that diverts officers from having to attend a call. Same thing with the 911 call diversions. There was a time when we responded to every 911 call, even the pocket dials. And it takes time and diverts officers' attention from other things on the front line. So we now have a call diversion program which has resulted in significant efficiencies. And you will get the slides later on so you can dig into the data a little bit more. So this is a slide about that $497 that the OPP needs to collect from municipalities on the government's behalf. It is divided into three main categories. There's base services, calls for service, and other. Base services is the most significant component, and it is allocated on a per property basis. Every property that the OPP polices in Ontario pays a flat rate of $189. That would be the more fixed component of the bill. Flat rate doesn't apply to vacant land. Vacant farmland is not charged that, but if there's a dwelling on it, that's a property.
So you still want questions at the end of your presentation or during?
If I may, but whatever the chair would.
Your choice.
After might be best because we may.
Then we'll do it that way.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So base service is the fixed component of the bill. Next, we have calls for service. This would be the variable part. So calls for service are reactive policing. Someone calls and needs support, a neighbor dispute, a missing child, something, they call the police for something. That's a call for service. There are many calls for service, and some are provincial and some are municipal. The DAR system helps us sort that out, and municipalities are only charged for calls for service that occurred within their municipality that are their responsibility. So calls for service would be reactive, and I'm just going to return to base for a moment. That would be proactive policing, things like ride programs, things we do proactively to address public safety. Other costs are at the top of the pyramid, $53 million. Those costs are charged to municipalities on a case-by-case basis. Those include things like overtime, accommodation, cleaning, court security, and other additional services that municipalities may contract for. So the reason I say it depends is because municipalities with a courthouse are required to pay for court security. Those that don't have a courthouse, of course, are not charged that amount. Moving to the next slide. Thank you. There are a lot of publicly available resources on our website, on opp.ca. I've featured a snapshot of one here because people are curious, and there's information available in the public domain. So often there are questions about the costs of policing, and municipalities would like to know what their neighbors are paying for policing, what comparable municipalities are paying for policing. It's all publicly available. It's the path is on the bottom. You can click on the link if you have this electronically. If you have this hard copy, you can scan the QR code. What this allows us to do is select any municipality that the OPP polices in Ontario and see the costs, or if you sort by the detachment column, you see all municipalities policed by a detachment, and you see them listed here in the data. There are two noteworthy omissions that I would like to draw your attention to. We don't see the two First Nations covered by this board listed here. That's because costs are dealt with differently, and they're not part of this OPP billing model. That's why they're not listed. So now I'd like to move on to the Community Safety and Policing Act. As you know, it was introduced in 2024, April 1st, 2024. It changed a lot of things, particularly governance systems for policing. Some of the noteworthy changes is it repealed the Section 10 contracts. And I heard someone earlier today, it might have been you, ma'am, refer to contracts that the OPP used to have with municipalities. Those would be called Section 10 contracts under the old Police Services Act. So the CSPA has repealed all of those contracts. All municipalities are on an even playing field now. Before, only Section 10 municipalities were able to apply for some grants. So now there's an even playing field for municipalities. It also introduced sections 17, 22, and 14. So that is agreements between other police services to provide services. It also covers additional services. So if a municipality would like to purchase the extra time, purchase an FTE for additional services that are over and above adequate and effective policing, they may do so. That would be captured in the other costs, and that was it's also covered by the CSPA. It introduced OPP detachment boards. There's an increased focus on our First Nations. There are new reporting requirements. CSPA introduced the Inspectorate of Policing and updated standards and training. I would like to draw your attention to some notable changes for our First Nations communities. First Nations communities may opt into the CSPA, and NAPS, Nishnawbe Police Service, became the first Indigenous police service in Ontario to operate under the CSPA. They're providing culturally appropriate policing to 34 communities. Currently, we are working with Tyendinaga First Nation Police to do the opposite. They are separating from the OPP to form their own police service. So options for First Nations in policing now. There's volunteer participation in community safety and well-being plans. The CSPA introduced the appointment of First Nations officers, and First Nations can opt into LECA, which is the process, the governance body that investigates complaints about officers. Next slide, please. OPP detachment boards are not police services boards as defined by the CSPA. Police service boards maintain their own police service, while OPP detachment boards provide civilian input to OPP policing at the detachment level. So I heard some discussion around the table today about responsibilities of the board. I got this from the legislation and the training material that has been provided. So there's 6 key areas of the board. 6 key responsibilities of the board, rather. One is to provide input to the selection of the detachment commander. So when there is a permanent vacancy in the detachment commander chair, the board will have input into the selection of a new member, of a new detachment commander. That does not apply to temporary assignments. OPP detachment boards support identification of local objectives and priorities, and I'm hearing it. Like it's working. I'm hearing it around the table today. It's wonderful to see. Advise the detachment commander on local policing. I think you're able to do that. The reports that the detachment commander presents to you allows you opportunity for dialogue and to highlight areas of your concern. Monitor detachment commander performance. Review reports from the detachment commander, as you have today. And it's also a responsibility of the detachment board to provide an annual report to municipalities and band councils. This is all done with consideration of the local community safety and well-being plans. So we have a chart here on the next slide, please. I've honed in on some key differences here. And to put it in a nutshell, I would say police services boards have more of an employer-styled relationship with the police service, whereas an OPP detachment board plays an advisory role. So an OPP detachment board, they oversee detachments serving municipalities and First Nations, whereas the police services board focuses on that municipal police service only. They prepare policies for the police service, whereas within OPP detachment board, you establish local policies with the detachment commander, but there's no obligation for you to create OPP policy. There's a difference in reporting requirements. As an OPP detachment board, you provide annual reports to band councils and municipalities. Whereas a police services board, they prepare and publish their strategic plan and annual reports. So it's a little bit different. Community representation includes municipalities as well as First Nations on our detachment boards, whereas police services boards, they have municipal appointees and provincial representatives. So these are not all of the differences. These are some key differences that I thought I'd hone in on today. Slide, please. I mentioned there are a lot of resources available on opp.ca. I really encourage you to go in and take a look. There's that calculator that I showed you earlier, the spreadsheet. There are other tools available too to help you understand how the OPP delivers service, but also how municipalities are billed. There are, so I thought I'd provide some resources for you today. Of course, I'm going to give the OPP a plug. They're the first one. And I've included links there to municipal policing and the billing model. The inspector of policing, I'm not sure if the inspector has a representative addressed this board yet. No, okay, lovely. Is it Hank? It should be Hank. Yes, so Hank is the IOP, the inspector of policing representative for this area. And when he comes to speak to you, if you have any very specific nuanced questions or concerns you would like to raise about board, their composition or whatever, Hank is the appropriate person to direct that to, because he is a direct link to the ministry. He is an employee of the ministry. And then I'm sure you're familiar with the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards. They are a great advocate for detachment boards and for municipalities. So just a few resources for you there. And the last slide could be one of the most important ones because it's got my name and my phone number. Call me if you have questions. I answer my cell phone, not during off hours and on the weekend, but I do answer that phone and I'm available to take questions and do what I can to support you. So that concludes the presentation.
Questions for Janet? Anyone? Okay.
I have like 3 or 4, or do you want me to just do one at a time? On your billing model, when you get your household counts, is that just a direct link from Impact?
We do get the data from MPAC annually, yes.
So if we have a beef on housing counts, we should take that up with Impact, not the police?
With the housing, with the property counts?
Yeah.
Correct, because we get our data from them annually.
Because we have, and I don't know if anybody else here, we have multiple campgrounds. 4 trailers equals 1 house. And MPAC is, we're in a battle. So we don't know if our numbers are correct to you on billing model to us.
Which matters.
Yes.
So on the MPAC data, there are codes for different types of property. I don't know the codes off by heart. If you go to our website, in the resources, there is actually a list of, there's information about MPAC data and information about the actual MPAC codes used that the OPP uses to calculate those costs.
I do believe you're getting the proper information. Actually, I thought that, but I think today you are. So then, my totally different court security. A town that has like the court system within it, and we have Walkerton in Bruce County, totally unjust on their town budget, having to supply the security at the jail or during court cases, and it does not come back from the province equally to weigh it out. It is like Walkerton shouldn't have the court system, and I think Owen Sound is another one that I don't know how fair it is in here, but I would not want a court in my municipality because it comes directly off your budget. And so is there anything that and we're after the province to try to make that fair to you as far as Bruce County Council is? Do you know, are they doing anything about court security and the dollars and cents wise going back to the towns?
I am aware of the court security and prisoner transportation grant that is available to municipalities, and I'm not sure what the criteria are, but I expect having a courthouse is the key one there. But there is a grant available to municipalities that I think offsets some of those costs.
Yeah. Some is the key word, but we'll keep our battle on that. So then for programs that the OPP are doing and that we're paying for, I believe we're doing a dual service when some of our OPP officers are trained in pulling a big tractor trailer over and weighing it and going through the process of whether it's safe to be on the road. And I think we're doing MTO's job, because I haven't seen MTO in our area since we've been supporting the police and doing. So I think we're doing a dual service. So either MTO should be giving us dollars and cents for each officer that we train and put on the road and equip with the scales and all those things to be able to do that service. MTO should be either funding us for that, or we shouldn't be doing it, because we take away an officer that could be doing something else. Do you know anything about that?
So those programs are a provincial responsibility, so there's no call for service and no charge specifically to the municipality for that service.
So that police officer that is trained by our OPP detachment and also has to keep up a course, and the equipment that's being bought, that's not bought by us, that's bought by the province.
It's a provincial responsibility.
Okay, so that doesn't link back to this board at all?
There is no charge back to municipalities for the provincial responsibilities.
Okay, that's good.
And just to add to that, so the big blitz we do in the fall and spring, we do that in conjunction with the MTO. They are there as well. And we do it in municipal service areas as well.
My big thing is, as long as it wasn't coming back to our household costs, which directly links.
That's right. It's
to this
proactive,
board.
so it does not.
So it's another service that's by the province. Okay.
Okay,
That's good.
could I just,
Yeah, no,
what you say, like, I hear where you're coming from, and I know about the court building thing, because Owen Sound, I was on city council when we thought this was great, they're gonna build a court building in our community. I wish they'd build it in Great Highlands. But aside from that, what you're saying is that, okay, the cost, if you take resources that are effectively paid for by the municipality and divert them for this other responsibility, it's not charged back, but it's a reduction in the resources. Is that not where you're coming
that's
from?
where I'm coming from.
Yeah, so in other words, it's your officers that effectively those municipalities are paying for in their contracts, right?
Well, that's
They're being
where I
used.
was
You don't
coming
bring
from.
officers in from outside the area to do this work that are not part of the cost of the policing for the town, for the different municipalities.
Marla was weighing in on that.
So that's all part of the proactive work that we do. It's built into the policing model because you want us doing proactive work, right? You want us out there doing speed enforcement and getting these commercial motor vehicles off the road that aren't safe. So we're still doing it. It's still part of an officer's day. It's just billed differently, right? You want us still doing that. We don't bring in other people because that is part of our day. Like in that little badge that I showed you on the screen, part of an officer's day is proactive. It's just you're billed differently.
I don't want you doing that when it's my truck you pull over.
You're trying to be safe, right?
I hear from the farmers and the, you know, the local guys with the gravel trucks that they've got their safety inspections, they've got their walk around inspections, they've got everything they do to their truck, and then all of a sudden they get pulled over by an OPP officer and the scales come out and things are like, oh my God, what more is happening to me? Like, I'm just gonna give it up and go do something else. They just get so frustrated that every time they turn the corner, they're being charged for something. And I don't think you'll ever pull a truck over that doesn't have one little thing wrong with it. It could be a light out, it could be maybe one master brake isn't. But so I've just been getting the phone calls that we're getting frustrated that it's not only MTO, it's the OPP are now charging me for driving my truck down the road. So that's where I'm coming from, is on that. So.
Isn't the question though, why is it the responsibility of the OPP to do this work and use their resources when it should be the MTO exclusively?
Exactly, yep. That's exactly.
Highway safety is one of our big parts of the OPP though, is highway safety, and transport trucks and commercial motor vehicles are a big user of the roadways, so it is part of our responsibility as well.
But where I'm coming from, that Marla, is that MTO should pull and not be there if we're gonna do it through our OPP policing, like as a province. So why do we need two services being trained and on the road and proactive in this type of thing when we could do it with one?
I think it's just a partnership that we work in conjunction together.
So then I'll keep going.
Okay.
My next question then, are First Nations that are going to do their own policing services, like, I don't think Owen Sound has a say on this board, do they? So anybody that isn't in the OPP wouldn't be on this board. Would they continue with seats on this board if they went to their own police?
They would establish their own First Nations board.
Right, so then they would not be on this board anymore. Because presently, I think we have representation from both.
There's two.
Yeah. But if they do come up with their own, I don't know if they are, but if they do, then they won't have representation.
And they have the opportunity to develop their own First Nations.
They have their opportunity to develop, but they'd still be on the board until that's developed.
Presumably, because there would be a demarcation point where their services would flip over to another service. So at that point, I presume they would cease to be a member of the board because they're.
But correct me if I'm wrong, do they not do with that new municipal police force have the right to ask the OPP to give them some certain services that they do not have?
The OPP partners with many other police services to deliver services, yes.
And they still have that right.
They have the opportunity to ask just as any other police services.
And how is that billed?
That is done through section 14. So on my slide where I said changes introduced by the new CSPA, it's called section 14. It's agreements between police services to deliver its, for lack of a better explanation, it's like a menu of services.
Yeah.
The menu's been standardized and police services can request support from each other for that. It is not billed back to municipalities.
So it's not billed on a fixed basis, it's billed on a usage basis, is that correct?
It's up to the ministry if they decide to cost recover from another municipality. The OPP is in the business of supporting our partners.
Okay.
So the billing is sorted out at the ministry level.
Any questions arising from that?
I just have one more question and then I'll.
Then Kathy's jump on all of us.
I'm just afraid I'm gonna forget my question.
I had to write mine down on my plate here.
That guy's some paper.
So I know Ontario and Quebec are a little different than the rest of Canada as far as policing and RCMP and all those types of things and funding. But I do know that the federal government supplies about 1/3 of the policing costs for the rest of Canada. The province that the RCMP are in are roughly 1/3, and the town that the RCMP are in are roughly 1/3. That's kind of their model. Does the federal government supply Ontario 1/3 for their policing? Or do you know where the, okay, so I'll keep asking that question. Nobody's been able to give me that answer, so I'll keep asking everybody that, and finally I'll get an answer something.
You do, that's great. And I expect the ministry would be the appropriate party to respond to that. May I also offer a clarification?
Please do, and then Member Coburn, before she forgets.
You can go first.
Her birthday.
Well, no, I was just going to make a remark, if I may, Chair, to Member Kirkland's comment about court costs being affiliated with the municipality. I'm not the best one to speak to this because I'm not one of the illustrious county council members, but I do understand from our mayor that that is no longer the case, that the cost of the Owen Sound, that Owen Sound was bearing is now spread out amongst everyone at county council.
We took a portion in Bruce County. We took a 50% portion from Brockton, but we didn't do 100%. So Owen Sound could, or Gray County could have chose to do something different with Owen Sound, but that's what we did in Bruce County. But it's still 50% by Brockton.
I was just curious.
Looking at Scott, I think we last year was it 250,000 we gave to the city of Owen Sound to help cover their cost. It wasn't, I don't know what that is percentage wise, but that's what the Owen Sound Council agreed on.
Any further questions for Janet?
She had a comment.
I'm sorry, go ahead. You have a comment.
If I may, thank you. There is a common belief amongst some that you're paying, that when municipalities are billed, they're paying for an officer. They're paying for that person. That's not the case. When a call comes in, you get as many officers as you need, and the cost remains the same. So if there is a large event and there's a huge OPP response that involves aviation and ERT and whatever else, you pay for the initial call for service, but all of those provincial resources are not billed back to the municipality. So I just take every opportunity I can to help address that belief that municipalities are paying for FTEs, for officers. They're paying for the calls for service.
Go ahead.
And just on that, and I can understand where you're coming from that. In the beginning, when we got handed the OPP contracts, it was in our contracts per officer. I'm talking my gray hair showing.
Before the OPP billing model was.
Right, so we've done a poor job since then of convincing people that it's not per officer, because our general public, and I know our municipality, still believes that our OPP costing is a direct link to how many OPP officers there is. And I get it all the time. I try to explain that it's not anymore. The billing is totally different, but that's something that we need to do. And maybe that's something that Brittany in her report back to us should, if it's a big deal to anybody, but it is something that's a perception of the public that it is per officer.
Go ahead, Scott.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. It's been touched on a few times in the presentation and some of the comments, but in regards to provincial responsibilities and municipal responsibilities, for municipal forces, sometimes they will argue that they are not being funded fairly by the province, that they're taking on responsibility. Others will argue that the OPP are providing them with services that is their responsibility and billing isn't being done. So can you just clarify, if the OPP are providing service to a lower tier municipality that has a police service, who makes the determination whether that is a provincial service that's available to everyone or whether that should be a billable service? So a murder investigation might be an example that isn't a provincial responsibility, it's a responsibility of that police service, but a small municipal force may not have the expertise to provide or to do that investigation, where the OPP then would step in and assist.
Correct.
Is that billed back to that municipal force? And if not, why not?
It's a provincial responsibility of the OPP to support their partners. And if it's up to the ministry if they decide to do cost recovery.
So irregardless of what's on the list for provincial responsibilities, any assistance given to a municipal force is not likely billed?
That's my understanding right now, that there is not cost recovery to those municipal services.
Thank you.
But just to clarify too, your municipality wouldn't be billed for those services either.
There are a lot of partnerships in policing. And we work with municipal forces all the time to optimize public safety.
Just in response to the commander's comment though, I hate to use the expression there is only one taxpayer, but even if it's something that's not billed directly to the municipality but covered by the province, our folks are still paying for it, right? Provincially,
yeah.
Just a brief comment. Provincial highways aren't billed back to the municipality, so that's, and maybe that's different than it used to be back in the system, but it used to always say provincial highway issues were provincial issues. However you keep track of that, I'm not sure, but I guess it's certainly, there must be a code or something, right?
Yes, there's a dark code for that.
Which we have, Highway 10, Highway 6 goes through here. And, you know, we talk about policing. I know even when we were on our smaller police service or police boards, the focus was that weekend traffic, right? And I remember billboards and paying extra, some of us paid extra to have extra officers on those just because of the Friday night on a long weekend, it changes, right? And you can see that. So I'm sure that's still a mandate there, but I know that was something that time before we were a joint board that we put emphasis or resources toward extra policing in that sense, which we could still do today, right? I'm sure.
But what you're saying though is that extra,
it's not our responsibility.
It might not get billed back to them
If it's a provincial responsibility, correct.
on the provincial highway.
Anything for, anybody else? Go ahead.
Just one other thing, back when we had our old police services boards, Chatsworth, Grey Highlands, Southgate, not sure what be for, we all chipped in to support our OPP officers with scales, which we found that MTO was not doing anything off the Highway 10-6 corridor. And I'm sure they're still out there, but we did chip in. You remember that, Scott? We did add that extra that our officers could be necessary to weigh vehicles, which I guess they're still doing, I presume, right? They still have that equipment. And I think it costs $5,000 each, Scott?
I forget the amount. That sounds close.
Yeah, around 20,000 or something. Because at that time, jointly, because we would meet jointly, we felt that.
I just find it frustrating that we have two agencies doing the same thing when we're trying to find efficiencies.
But on the flip side, our roads department are frustrated because on our municipal roads, it's not happening.
Mm-hmm. But that's where you should be going after MTO to, and where's it, you know.
I think we been down that road a couple of times.
I don't want to beat this court building thing to death, but it's, since you raised it, member Kirkland, it's your fault, but
yeah.
The whole thing, what you just described, first of all, I wasn't aware of that in both Bruce and Grey counties, you've agreed to share the cost with the host municipality. That's generous, but it is at the cost of your taxpayers. And quite frankly, as I've said in this issue all along, is do these criminals all live in Grey and Bruce County? What about these people that come from Toronto or London? Like, why doesn't London have to pay for all these costs related to the Toronto people that come in and steal cars in our community? Why is this not provincially funded? That money should come, 100% of that money for that court security, regardless of who delivers it, what police force or service provided. Because once again, we're back to crime has no boundaries. That's the way this should be handled.
You're the provincial appointee, you should be telling the province. We've been trying for years.
I think this board, as a police board, knowing you are here to represent the cost of policing collectively and everybody's sharing it now apparently, maybe our board needs to send that message and say that, and I'm sure we would share it like through the association, because it's just not fair. It's not right. Court the fact that the building is in that municipality has to pay for any portion of that cost when the criminals, I'll bet you there's more criminals, and maybe you would know that, Marla, that are in these kind of crimes that don't live locally. The murder that took place on the main street, people that came from another country, apparently. So why is it that the province isn't paying for that cost? It's just not right. It makes no sense that the taxpayers, regardless of how it's shared among the municipalities in the two counties, none of it should be paid for by that source.
That's a whole other discussion. I mean, we've had that at our level. As a crime kept coming up further and they're doing a good job, Toronto Police kept moving it further north. Barrie got whacked with it, and they moved them over next to Wasaga Beach, all the drug dealers, and they're moving their way over here. It just keeps rolling along. So, I mean, I'm not sure it's fair to take a shot at somebody for doing a good job. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a question on prisoner transfer. I've heard over that, so your prisoners have to come from Penetang or wherever that jail is. They drive them over here, they have a court case. By the time they get here, do the thing, and then they gotta get back. Like, so prisoner transfer, is that part of court costs, or is that part of the provincial responsibility, or where does that fall in?
There is under other, there is a prisoner transportation fee that is charged at a flat rate to every household in the province. So it's a flat rate, and that rate is hopefully in front of me, $1.67 per property. So for prisoner transportation, because recognizing people come from all over, so there is that flat rate.
So at one time, there used to be closer jails and they got closed down, but I think should we be jail closer? Because should there be a jail or whatever closer to these areas? Because I don't know the details of how long, but I've heard the story where it takes a lot, you got to go over and get them, bring them up to Owen Sound or wherever, and then you're here, and then it limits the time you can have the debate up your court, because then you got to send them.
Also, you know what, from my perspective, to be fair, maybe Marla can correct me, a lot of this is being done electronically now by Zoom.
Since COVID, that helped.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a fair amount that's coming out that way, so that's eliminating a lot of costs.
I know COVID that was the case, but I wasn't sure that was continued on.
Then we're going back to in person now.
Yeah, so that's all changed again. So now it's transferred. It's just, and that's a provincial thing. So
Same point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Same point.
Why are we that cost of a dollar? You said $1.67 per household. I think I saw $1 million.
Let's go back to transferring in person, maybe get somebody down in one jurisdiction.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, we're having philosophical discussions. We had a report that was tabled. I think we should be sticking to that.
You're right, it's getting carried away. Thank you very much.
But up to that point, 1,246,809 properties in Ontario are being charged $167 or $1.67 for that. And just the point is that the most efficient way of doing it? That's all I was bringing the point.
That question is fair, but when we start talking about jails and different locations and stuff.
You think we'd all go on for a long time, but this is not what this is about.
It's just something that I heard.
They call that hearsay. Okay, thank you. Is there any further questions? Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll apologize, I might have sparked most of that conversation.
That's why we come here.
We exceeded your limit of questions.
Much better off knowing what we know.
Apparently, good feedback. Apparently, there's no one unfinished business. Is that correct? No unfinished business? And now, this is the big one. This is the important one. I think we're up to amendment 8. It's request for inclusion. Member McQueen, you had a letter that was on here, I believe.
I'm just trying to.
I was trying vehicles.
Trying to bring it up here, but yeah, so, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, very briefly, as I mentioned half an hour ago, when we were moving from our local police services board to the, I remember anyway, but, to this board, one of the important things of our council was still to have that ability to get input from our municipality from the issues that arise. And from that, we developed a community safety committee which is made up of myself, another counselor, and representatives from our public. From that meeting, we've had dialogue and discussion, and from that, there was a motion that came out of our meeting with regards to safety around, how did I exactly word it? Safety around the buggy. It's very dark there. So the motion is that the Community Safety Committee recommend that Member McQueen follow up with the Grey Bruce Detachment Board and report back to the committee on the status of any public education programs related to road safety for the horse-drawn vehicles within Grey Highlands Initiative. And that came from Grey Highlands, but I think in transparency across the Grey Bruce region is, this is not just Grey Highlands, it's across Grey County and Bruce County. So, and so because it was raised from some of our members of, concerns around one, visibility at night. And I know there is changes, it has happened, and one of the questions was, from MTO standards, are the horse-drawn buggies required to have certain safety, lighting, tail lighting, whatever, or are they not? Or are they moving toward that? I've seen, I think some of us around the table probably have seen buggies at night, and they have lights, but they're not the same. It looks sort of interesting, or red lights, but I think they've made a lot of progression on being seen. So I guess, so the general question here is, to this board is, from a public safety to the OPP, is there a program in place, or is there something that we can do, or I'm supposed to sort of bring this back? So I guess I look through you, Mr. Chair, to our representatives, or the detachment commander, and is there, and it's something that we hear buggy accidents, we hear, at one time they were completely black and you couldn't see them when they went through an intersection. So again, this was raised from one of our members, and I guess from you, I look at if there's a response from our OPP.
So other areas have done signage, to watch out for these vehicles on the roadways. That's what Wellington's done. I know when I worked in South Bruce, they work closely with the communities to get them to get more LED red lighting, like that would stick out more at night. But that's, getting those relationships built with the community to get the trust and then get the buy-in on that. But we can definitely do more messaging. I reached out to our media officer yesterday about this. He's got a video that the OPP's created about it that we can share, and he can do some more social media, things like that. But you're speaking more to actually getting them better lighting?
It's just safety.
Safety,
It's
yeah.
just,
So education on both sides, yeah.
Right.
And we were discussing creating a position of someone to do like a liaison with the communities there to talk to them about the safety on their half as well. And this would be not specific to Grey Highlands, because I think this is more of an issue that's throughout the counties. So that's why I think this would be a suitable issue.
it came because we have, the last 20 years in Grey Highlands, the population is greatly increased, but there's different groups, not just the Mennonite community, there's the Amish, and there's other, I think Chatsworth, there's a different group there. And I think that's great. And so long as we keep moving toward, and I think we've all seen the progression where they are installing lights and tail lights and stuff to be seen at night. And I know just the other night it was raining. Maybe it was just the morning I was coming to an early meeting, and I couldn't figure out what this light was. Interaction. Well, it was the horse drawn between the legs, and the light sort of shone, but it was like, what's that? Until you got closer, then you realized, so it's not a perfect world. I guess the other side is provincially, as we have, and I would probably think they would try to stay off the major highways as best they can, but some of them have farms on those roads. So you have populations that are driving motorists that are coming into our communities like, what's this? And how do we educate them as well? We've heard some horrific accidents and situations over the years. And I think as long as it was raised, and it was raised in a general sense of how do we keep working forward and everybody's safe. And I mean, they're slow moving vehicles, so then a sign. But I bet you if you asked a young driver in downtown Brampton, what that slow moving vehicle sign was, they may not have an idea. And that's is through your MT, or through your licensing. And it is one of the questions, because I renew my A license every so many years. But It's just education, and that may go back provincially as well, because that population is growing and will continue to grow. And so it's not one thing to put your finger on. It's just as long as we're all sort of working toward and reaching out to that community. And I think quite a few years back, I've been on Grey County Farm Safety for 2003, and I know back even before I was on there was the reflective tape, and they were for a long time resistant to even, like we were even providing it for free. They were just resistant to it because, you know, don't bother us. But I think that has changed through time, and I guess it all takes time for safety, but they are different. There's more and more of them on our travel roads, and you know, it's more of them. Buggies are on the road, then there's more interaction. It's the same with farm equipment and everything else, but this is more specifically with the horse-drawn. So it's sort of raised for discussion, but I thank you for your comments, and we're working toward that. That's great.
This whole issue, are there regulations, Marla, that can be enforced? Like if I'm driving my car and one of your officers sees my taillight is out, they can stop me, pull me over and say, you got a taillight, et cetera, et cetera. Does the province have regulations that you can enforce in the same way? You have to have these kind of safety features on your horse and buggy. And if you don't, we'll lay a charge against you in the same way with a motorist who's driving an unsafe vehicle.
There is, it's a slow-moving vehicle essentially, so there's limited. But I'm not sure that enforcement and charging them would be really beneficial. Like, I'm not sure it's gonna get the same traction as maybe if you stop them for speeding, give them, right? Because they don't have driver's licenses, they don't have, like, they live by different standards, right? They don't have the same insurance and the driver's license demerit points and whatnot. So I think for us, it's more of an education with them. Because you're going to get more traction, I think, versus charging them. If that makes sense.
Just to you, Chair, I'm just really thankful for this to come forward. And I was just, going back on what has recently happened as early as January 2025. I'm obviously thinking close to Southgate. I know it happens everywhere. And then December and July of last year, and they're very horrific accidents that have happened. And we were actually having discussions about this. I'm thankful to Member McQueen for mentioning some of the questions I had about whether the reflective tape or can there be something on the horse and buggy that people can see. Especially with Southgate, there's a lot of people who move in, they get educated or they know about it, and then they move out, and then we get new people again. So it's also seeing how we can have continuity in making sure the public knows, because with all the construction and everything that's happening, it's so devastating, and especially on that Highway 10 coming up into Dundalk, especially, it's very precarious area and safety issues. With regards to public education, and if this is a motion, would it be possible? I know this is Great Highlands, but as Member McQueen said, can it be expanded to include all? Does it have to be mentioned in there or not? What you submitted.
You asking me?
Yes.
No, I thought you were asking the officer. No, I mean, we're just, I raise it because I think it's unique throughout Grey County, right? It's not, I was just Googling here, as mentioned by Member Nickel, is the MTO requirements for horse-drawn. I was just Googling it here just now, and I think following up on that, other than the slow moving vehicle sign, is there a requirement? Because that was one of the questions I was asked, is there requirements for them to have lighting? I mean, you wouldn't need it during the daytime, but certainly at dusk and dawn, and that's what I was just Googling here. So, and I guess that's, enforcement is better education, but from the driving motorist that can't see, at the end of the day, if there's a serious accident or something, I think that's where the feeling is from safety wise, is to be seen. Like if you can't be seen, and so I guess that's, if you're going back, is the regulation on that, and maybe that's something that needs to be regulated if it isn't there, just a requirement like anything else that's on the road that's slow. Like a tractor, you're supposed to have a rear red light. I think at one time it was a headlight and a rear light. One red light I think was requirements, but maybe two. I don't know. Like there is requirements there, and maybe this is something that comes back. Like it was, because I think everybody's sort of scratching my head, like, what is, so, anyway, I raised it pretty time for this discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In dealing with the Amish community in our municipality for a number of years, and I'm glad to hear Inspector talk about liaisoning with the community. That is certainly the best means of making any change. So the Amish community have bishops. I can't speak for the Mennonite community, but the bishops, they rule on what happens within that community. So if you can get them convinced, then you're a long way towards making changes happen. So I certainly encourage, a lot of our Amish buggies are not well illuminated at night, and there is safety concerns. So I would encourage the OPP to reach out to the bishops and have that discussion.
Kathy, go next.
I'm just going to reflect back on what our vice chair said about regulations. I'm all for education. That's entirely my background. If you'll recall, decades ago, that's what we did with seatbelts. It was an educational approach, and it didn't work. So that's why we have regulations now. Also reflecting back on the comments about heavy vehicles and all of the inspections, how much of that is education and how much of it is, here's an infraction, we're going to lay a charge. So I understand the nuances. I understand that education is important. I also understand consistency and fairness in practice and getting the results we need to prevent deaths.
I'm along that line too, and it's unsafe. I can't drive a tractor down the road at nighttime without lights on it. Shouldn't be able to drive a wagon, and the only regulation is the slow moving sign. And I've always been thinking, the communities have bought up rural Ontario and the small farms, and they're the only ones that can afford to farm, or they can keep their expenses low enough to be able to survive off a 100-acre farm or a 200-acre farm. Most farmers nowadays have to be 1,000 acres to try to survive. So they've taken up rural Ontario. We don't have the gas tax that we apply for in our area, and the volumes. And when we lose all these rural farms and the gas tax from people paying gas tax towards the roads, when we apply for a bridge for funding from the province and you're getting your taxes back, this is, not there. And there's got to be some sort of a regulation. If you're going to drive down our roads, you're going to have to do it legally, and especially at night. I'm okay with during the day, but at night it is brutal sometimes when you come across one of these. It scares the Jesus out of you when all of a sudden there's a vehicle in front of you, and if it is just one light, it looks like it's still a way off in the distance, and all of a sudden it's right there. So I know I've been shocked a few times that somebody's on the road that way. I don't know if we can look for the province to come up with some sort of regulation on this, because it's not going away. Getting worse. And it's getting worse. And I know in Bruce County, and I hear about Grey County, they bought up a lot of rural Ontario in Lucknow, Teeswater area. That it's huge. Katy, those areas are huge. A lot of these major highways or county roads are well used now by tourism, and it is a shocker at 9 or 10 o'clock at night to see a wagon on the road. So I don't know if there's anything that our OPP could think that they would want to do to start, because it is a safety issue. Do you want to just leave the regulations the way they are, that they only need a triangle on the back of their wagon, or should there be some sort of a licensing fee that they have to abide by when they're on the roads? Or I don't know. Do we want to tackle something as big as that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It strikes me that the question that is being asked here is just a question on the status of any existing programs. This is getting into more of a conversation about should we be making a recommendation as a board to say to the province that we recommend that there be more legislation on this. Little different than what Paul's asking, but I think if we're going to formalize it, that needs to be done.
That's where when I first read Paul's thing on there, my thoughts were along where I'm coming from. Do we need more regulation?
Yeah.
And it wasn't. I was going to a bigger thing.
And I sort of brought it to sort of I have that question because at first it's inquired, what is the public education with regards to them, right? And that's sort of the answer here as well.
So if you want us to speak to you want to speak to Wellington, what they do there?
Yeah, just so my experience in Wellington, we did have a liaison to the Mennonite community. It was very successful. We were able to point out the safety issues to the community, and most of them complied with getting lights on their buggies. And I think that the big thing that helped, where you're talking about where we have all the tourists that come up here that are not used to driving on or sharing the roadways, were big signs that were placed strategically in the community that showed the horse and buggy and about share the road, that sort of thing. And the media campaign that was done. And those things together really helped to make things safer, where there was buy-in, there was more communication, and there really was no need for enforcement. Did we still have buggy accidents? Yeah, we did, because you're dealing with an animal that's unpredictable at times and perhaps maybe an inexperienced driver. But we found that helped significantly with respect to the safety issues on the road.
And I can speak to South Bruce. We also had a liaison officer there who went and met the bishops and got that buy-in from them. And we found them all getting that lighting similar to what Wellington's found. So I think it's that liaison piece, is like you mentioned as well, is the huge piece, is getting in there, getting to know the communities and getting the buy-in from them. And then if you get the bishop on board to get the lighting, then they'll more likely to comply with that. And that's what we focused on in St. Bruce, was that safety and getting the lighting. And we found that they were abiding by that.
But you're doing your job, in other words. Getting done. The education is getting it. Go ahead.
So just one last comment, and I think I'm not going to touch the regulation at this point, that could come further on, but sometimes it goes back to the part is if there is regulation that's not being followed. I'll give you an example. Quite a few years back in Grey Highlands, when the Mennonite community came in, they all started to get skid steers, and everybody's familiar with skid steers and then telehandlers. Well, they were picking their kids up at the local school in the bucket of the skid steers. Unfortunately, on one of the farms, there was a mishap, and a child was killed from riding. And so I think there was charges laid, and there was, I don't think there was jail time, but there was certainly pretty heavy hand came down, because he had to send the message that you can't be carrying kids in your bucket of your skid steer. So some points the communication is good, but some point you got to get to the point that you need to regulate it because they're not following it. And that's all I'm going to say at this point. But sometimes, you know, on that particular, it was unfortunate the child got killed. And I mean, unbelievable going to the school, picking up kids and putting them in the bucket of the skid steer. It was on a major county road too, right? So anyway, I know we're getting off. That wasn't what I would ask, and I'll leave it at that. But thank you very much. I want to thank you for that, and maybe that's something that we can enhance. Billboards, was that something the OPP covered, or for Wellington, or is that just the Police Services Board? Who covered that cost of the billboards for the communication?
I'm not 100% sure. It might have been MTO, because some of it was on highways and part of it would be the municipality if it was on municipal roads. I could certainly find out though.
You might want to talk to Savannah, you know, the whole Share the Road campaign with agriculture.
Yeah, county,
Could
yep.
be an add-on to that through the county.
Yeah, so the county roads, absolutely. Thanks, Scott.
Go ahead.
With, just for you, Marla, would it be easier for your officers, if there were regulations that were very specific, as there are for motor vehicles, that you could, as part of your educational process, sit with these people and say, okay, here are the regulations for your buggies when they're on the road. They're very specific in the same way they would be for a motor vehicle. And then it's not, well, we want you to do a few things, try to make your thing, you know, your buggy more illuminated, all the rest of it. If those regulations were provided to you through the province, would that make your job easier? And then if those regulations are in fact the law, then those who just simply ignore them, at some point, they would be subject to some sort of consequence.
So there are regulations. They do have to have the reflective slow moving vehicle sign, and they do have to have front and rear lights. But the key is, some of them are so dim, like most people have spoken to, there's no, I guess, regulation on how bright they are. It's gotta be lights to the front and the back. So as long as they have those, they're abiding by the requirement of the regulation. So there is regulations already in place. It's just, we've seen some of the lighting and it's not very bright. So it's working on getting them to get brighter, more effective lighting.
That's part of the campaign too, like when you recognize a problem and you throw resources towards it and you do an education piece. But just like when you put up a new speed limit sign, right? When it went from 60 to 40, right? You're not gonna start hammering the public right away and charging them for going above the speed limit. But you're gonna put it out in the media that the speed limit has changed. You're gonna do some traffic stops and educate people. And then, over a period of time, then you're gonna start, okay, now is the time, we're gonna start charging people. So I think that approach would most likely work here. That, that liaison person sitting down with the community elders and bishops and, explaining that this is for your safety because people don't wanna, hurt you inadvertently because they can't see you and all the reasons why. And work with the community, maybe look into putting up some signs and then, hopefully we don't get to that stage, but if we do have to, then the enforcement comes into play. I think everybody can appreciate that approach as opposed to going right out there and starting a campaign of enforcement.
And just to wrap up comment, I will say, for the 20 years, I think in Prairie Highlands, I'm gonna say about 1998, around Badgerville was where the Mennonite community started. I have seen a progression of light, that there was no lights, and now there's lights. So, and it's probably the reflectivity or the dimness of those lights could probably be improved on, but it has moved. What we do here of accidents and things like that happen in Dundalk, and we don't want that to happen. I think all of us would agree, we don't want that to happen. So if you can be seen, there's a reason for those regulations is safety, right? And so, yeah, thank you for that.
Okay. Anything further? No? Good. That was quick, wasn't it? Where are we? Bylaws.
If I may, Mr.
I'm sorry,
Chair.
go ahead.
A part of section 12 is also discussion and inquiries of our detachment commander. So if any board member has a question to pose to the detachment commander, now is the time to do so. And I simply flagged that because Member Nickel had mentioned that he had a question earlier on in the meeting.
We've all probably heard and seen in the news this story about the home invasion situation where the homeowner protected his family and he's been charged by the OPP, as the media has reported. I guess my inquiry to you would be, I think the Premier's already expressed his thoughts on the matter, but how is it that the OPP have been directed to approach this kind of situation? In other words, it's, the media is portraying this as a homeowner who has an invader in their home hasn't got the right to use physical force to deter this person or apprehend this person or whatever, and that they could end up, as has happened in this case, being charged. I know the response was, well, yeah, but he hasn't been convicted. Well, I'm sorry, but that seems like a bit of a cop-out to me. So I don't know if you're comfortable to respond if a situation like that occurred in our area. What are the parameters of what that homeowner's rights are under the law to be able to defend him and his they and their family's domain when someone forcibly enters it?
So it all comes down to as much force as is reasonable or necessary, right? So I can't speak to the particulars of that case. There's probably more to the story than we know when it's being shared. So it all comes down to what's reasonable in the situation. So, if someone comes in, again, each situation is different. It comes down to you can use as much force as is necessary to protect yourself and your property. So what's necessary, what's reasonable, that's what's up for debate, right? But it comes down to each situation. I can't speak a blanket response to that. So, if someone breaks into your home, they have a gun, is that different than if they come in with a knife? Well, again, that depends on the situation too. So it comes down to the investigation and what they find, was the force used against the intruder reasonable or not? And if it's above that reasonable threshold, then that's when you be charged. Similar, the police, we have the right to use force, right? We have that force, exception in the criminal code to use as much force as necessary. And if we go beyond that threshold, we can also be charged, right? So there always has to be that threshold so that people don't go above and beyond, and that's why that's in there.
But none of us know what that threshold really is. That's the problem. What is fair? If there's 3 guys that are 6'6" each and they don't have any weapons and they're in your home and do you need to grab a baseball bat and whack them all over the head so you don't have to worry that they're going to harm you with their fists or whatever? Do they have to have a weapon? The public has no sense of what you just described as reasonable. To me, somebody breaks into your home, anything you have to do to get them out of there would be reasonable, but that's just me. So I'm concerned that the police have not been given enough specifics and that the public don't understand, well, I don't want to go to jail for defending my family, but I don't want to risk my family's health. The public just doesn't know. And this strikes me as just, and hopefully our premier's reaction will bring some clarity to this, because I just think it's ludicrous that this situation exists, personally.
Tough to answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say what's reasonable for each situation, right? It's
Situation is different. It's tough to answer.
Just on that question, watching the bill, there's a bill at the House of Commons in the federal level right now to change it back to the way it used to be. About 8 or 9 years ago, it got changed to the interpretation of the investigation of what is the use of force, or what level of use of force are you allowed to do. If the bill goes through and the House passes it, it will bring it back to the old way, that if you're coming into my house.
Is that the castle law?
I believe, yes. So it is getting looked at. I don't know if it's going to be changed, but I know the Conservatives are the ones with it on the table right now, and whether they look at it and take it back to the way it is, that you have a complete right to protect your domain if somebody's coming into you. And there's more to it than just that, but it's right now it's the interpretation of the investigation of this use of force, and you know what, if it's 3 6-footers and they don't have a knife or a gun and you shoot one of them, well, that's excessive force. So now you're going to be charged, put in court. Doesn't mean you're guilty, but your life is going through hell for a little while. So hopefully that bill goes through. And right now we have to deal with what the law says it is right now. So right now you run out the window, try to get your kids.
What's reasonable?
Let your kids fend for themselves.
They probably did not before they entered.
They should have. Yeah. Anyways, that's all. That's.
Now we're digressing. Yep. Okay. Go ahead.
Just one other thing. I just want to thank our officers and those involved with the opportunity to have a tour of the Wyerton OPP office. That was, I think, really good, and give us a little bit of insight of what goes on in that building. And Jody and I were in the back seat there, and the doors weren't closed, so we were sort of checking out the back part of a police office.
I was tempted to close it up.
Yeah. So we were there as guests. And anyway, it was a good tour, and again, the other gentleman that was not, usually it's here, he wasn't here, and he was very helpful as well, so thanks.
I'll pass it on to him as well.
Yeah.
Here's sort of here.
No, why not? Okay. We'll just get it on.
Was it the wire?
Okay, let's look
Oh,
at
yeah.
our bylaws.
Yeah, you took the pictures.
Oh, yeah.
With respect to bylaws, there are no bylaws, and there is no closed session. Just before we adjourn, Vice Chair had wanted to take the floor here.
I just wanted to raise one issue with respect to the continuity of this board. We're composed of members of municipal councils and council community representatives and 3 provincial appointees. As I understand it, when an election is called, everyone, maybe with the exception of the provincial appointees, are no longer necessarily members of this board. And that being the case, depending upon the results of those elections, you could have a group of all brand new people, and we know the extensive training that we all had to go through. And it just strikes me that perhaps we should be expressing our concern to our association that in the interests of continuity, that we don't have that kind of situation where everybody is gone from that board and you start with all brand new people because they no longer are appointed by their municipality to be on the board. Now, I myself was appointed as a provincial appointee for a one-year term. I believe you, Gary, and Carol were 2 years. I assume that's not because they were picking on me, but they just want some sort of continuity. So maybe when I'm reappointed, if I am, it'll be for a 2-year term and they won't, all of us won't come up.
What they're gonna do, they're gonna come to you and they're gonna say, I'm still interested, and then you gotta do the hoops again, but you won't have to do the course.
No.
Okay. So just for the sake of continuity, succession planning, we need to get clarity on that. What happens? Because there'll be, 4 of us left and everybody else could be gone. Who knows?
3.
Anyway.
That's the point I'm raising, and I'm just suggesting that it's an issue. I chatted with the ladies from Aurelia about this at the break, and they understood, and I suggested maybe you could go back and talk to your superiors, because it's a concern, isn't it? We go through a process to learn, and it's great to have the staff here to at least, but if you had to go, we know what it took to get this thing going with all of that training and the time it took, and when you've got municipal councillors who have multiple committees they're going to be assigned to, and changes are made. Okay, I want to be on the police board. That means a new person from not the old one. So I just think there's a real potential for concern with these boards, not just ours, all of the ones that the province has not addressed. And that's the only reason I raise this. And I'm wondering if we should notify or send some sort of letter to the police board and perhaps Solicitor General's office to make this point.
Well, just not to put Jody on the spot, but you've had conversations, I think, with the ministry, have you not? Do you want to speak to that? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I know we have.
Yes, Carly primarily had inquired initially when member Nickel was appointed to extend his appointment to coincide with everyone else's expiry date. It just made sense. To which a response was basically the appointment stands as is. But I'm not sure. I'll have to check. Yeah, no reason essentially. I'll have to check with Carly. I don't want to misspeak, but I know she did inquire right at the start, just due to the discrepancy of appointments.
So question then would be, because this can happen in council. I mean, truly, our neighboring municipality, they had 7 gone. So basically, that's a new council come in, 0 continuity, except for staff. So once again, and there was a heavy reliance on that. They all had to go through the new training, but the through line tends to be the staff who are going to help they already help guide the process as it is. And when no matter how many new, we could not all municipal members could not be here next time. And so we are going to, again, rely heavily on training and staff support and guidance. I hope not.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Just further to that, and those comments are well appreciated. We do the online training. That's helpful, but it's not enough. So through you, Mr. Chair, to Jody, who's our admin support, I don't think it's too soon to start thinking about a training half day for the new board, given here over and above what we have to do online. I think that's key to making sure people's feet are moving when they hit the ground.
And that can also be dealt with in how we're going back to Janine on all the suggestions that she can make. Yeah.
Our municipal appointees, they would stay. Did we not make it that they're here for 2 years? Because there was half the municipalities didn't appoint a municipal appointee so far. So their 2-year term, and then so South Bruce Peninsula does not have a representative. We will the next time.
You're saying community members?
Community members, yeah.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So the build up or the composition of this board
is built into the regulations that amended the Community Safety and Policing Act. So if we're going to shift the way in which this board is composed, where the terms that each of our community members and our municipal appointees observe, that would be done through a formal amendment of the regulation at the provincial level. That's not something that this board can do on its own. But with that being said, you are correct, Member Kirkland, in that terms are reflective of like a circular composition, and that's confusing the way that I said that. But community appointees are appointed on a rotating basis. So for example, because Georgia Bluffs has a community appointee on the board this term, priority will be given to those municipalities that do not have a community appointee in the next term. So for example, Southwest Peninsula. The community appointees are appointed at the same term as the municipal appointees, and that's reflective of a municipal council term. So that's a 4-year.
So they are correct. It could be our 3 provincial appointees being the only ones left on board.
That is correct, yes.
Exactly. But we aren't going to be able to change the mandate anyways because it's a provincial mandate.
You could lobby the province to change it, should you wish to.
And through our association that has a number of us, I would think that would have the most clout to say we're concerned with the situation and as opposed to us as one board, everybody's in the same situation, aren't they, throughout the province?
Yeah, but how do you propose to fix it? We can't get rid of municipal elections. We can't get rid of, the point. Like, what is there a suggestion that you would be willing to put on the table?
Suspend all municipal elections.
Yeah. No, I don't want that. You understand my question?
Yeah, well, I think, like, I don't know if we want to.
51.
I don't know if we want to get into the discussion right now. I would certainly think we could, we could start to discuss that, put forth some suggestions. Like maybe one is, okay, that the municipality is allowed to have the continuation of that prior councillor that wasn't reelected continue for a period of time. I don't know. I appreciate, they've probably done it this way for a reason, but it poses an issue. And if we bring the issue forth, then hopefully they say, okay, then we're looking at ideas and you get the association involved.
If we follow this, will follow a typical provincial mandate, like I come from the fire service, there will be opportunities for any of us to become train the trainer type of thing. So when the gong hits and you got new people, that you'll have people locally that'll be able to come in and bring you up to a certain level, like a 4-hour seminar or something,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I would be happy to include this on the next agenda as a discussion topic.
Yep.
Or talk about some discussion.
Why don't we? We could be here all day doing that one.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? If not, I recommend that the next regular meeting be be told, I should say, October 28th, 2025 at 9 o'clock, and therefore the meeting today is adjourned and the time is 12:01. Sorry?
Point to the 28th is that their education, one of them falls on the 28th.
We know that.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Now, there's a conflict.
Yes.
Okay.
Just need to move on to secondary.
That's where I was going. Okay. Member McQueen moved, Member McQueen seconded. Don't seconded. Even Marla